Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They've got him! It's a sack!
Sixers.
Oh, baby!
And Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
Eagles are 2 for 4 on third downs. They have to get inside the 10 for a first down. Back goes McKee. He's firing, and it's intercepted. Coming out with it to the 10, 15, 20. Still on his feet is Reeves. Across the 30, and finally brought down.
No, again, you go through your process. You make what you think is the best decision for the football team, and that's what we did. I knew this was an outcome that these things could happen. Like I said to you guys, one thing I could guarantee, giving them guarantee anything else, and us being healthy and going into the playoffs healthy is a big deal for us. And that served us well in the past. And so again, I know there'll be debate on that, but again, I have to do what I think is best for the football team moving forward.
To rest or not to rest? That was the question yesterday. It is the Sports Bash live at the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Back again on a Monday. I'm your host, Mike Gill. Pete G has the day off. Alex Berardis is my on-site producer. Josh Henning is back in the Ocean Casino Resort studios. You out there on a day where the Eagles had a chance to move up to the number 2 seed. But they rest their starters, and the backups could not get the job done against Josh Johnson and the Commanders. And the Commanders come into Philadelphia and beat the Philadelphia Eagles 24-17. The Eagles are now locked in to the number 3 seed. They will host the San Francisco 49ers at Lincoln Financial Field, 4:30 on Sunday, in a game you can listen to right here on 97.3 ESPN. So, listen. Hindsight 2020, we can all say you had a chance to play your starters. They should have done it, and they should have gone out and won that game. That's the hindsight. The Bears lose the game. You don't know going into that. Nick Sirianni said on Friday, the only thing I can guarantee is if my guys don't play, they can't get hurt. I can't guarantee what's going to happen in that other game. So I'm going to go with the guarantee. How many people at that time had a problem with it? It sounded like most people were kind of on board because a lot of people out there didn't believe that the Bears would lose that game. And then when the Bears were losing that game, you started to feel a little different as the game went on. If you were watching that game, I mean, it was eerie how simultaneously things were happening. At one point, the Eagle game was 17-17, and the Lion-Bear game was 16-16. At one point, Kevin Harlan was doing play-by-play for the Bear game, and he calls the field goal that puts them up 19-16. And at the same moment, Tanner McKee is throwing an incomplete pass on 4th down. You had the opportunity. You didn't take it. Are you okay with that? Here's a couple things. One, I'm okay for it for this reason. You are taking your best shot at this. I don't think there's a better path. So is being fully healthy to make the deep run your best option? I think that's your best option. Because I think if you listen to Reed Blankenship and some of the other guys in that locker room yesterday and the week leading up to it, these guys were spent. They needed the week off. And they felt that having this week off will give them a better opportunity to make a deep playoff run. Here's what Reed Blankenship said after the game yesterday.
I feel like that was the best decision that Coach made, and I feel fresh. And whatever day it is, I mean, they got to come over here and come back to Philly. So
there's no level of regret knowing that the Lions won.
Yeah, we can play the what if game. I mean, yeah, when the Lions win, when you're on the sideline, like, man, I wish I would have played, but you ain't gonna know that. I'd rather have a week of rest and let my body, recover than go out there and be in a dogfight, and then feel bad going into a playoff game.
I would say this. I was kind of torn on this whole situation, but when the Eagles played the starters against Buffalo the week before, and then Chicago lost, at that point, did you have to reevaluate it? Like, you played your starters against Buffalo. There was no need to, essentially, if you were saying we weren't going to play the starters in week 18, why would you go to Buffalo in a rainstorm, freezing cold? Why would you go up to Buffalo on the road and elect to play your starters if you weren't going to try to finish the deal? Now, I don't have a problem that they decided, listen, because the Eagles have precedent here. They have precedent. Last year, they sat their starters in the last week of the season. They went to the Super Bowl and won as the number 2 seed. Now, you would say, yeah, as the number 2 seed. More on that coming up. They also, in 2023, played their starters in a meaningless game at the end of the year. And what happened in that game? A.J. Brown got hurt. Do you remember that? Right? Jalen Hurts, didn't he hurt his ankle or something in that last game? And then he was kind of banged up and hobbled in the playoff game in 2023. So yesterday, the Eagles lost 3 players in that game. Grant Calcaterra, Brett Toth, and I don't even know who the other guy was playing safety. Brandon Johnson. I never heard of him before. I was like, who the hell is this guy on my screen? Brandon Johnson, and now he's hurt. But that could have easily been Dallas Goedert, Landon Dickerson, and Reed Blankenship. How would we be feeling today if the Eagles played that game and 3 starting players ended up getting hurt and they weren't available for you for the playoffs? Probably not great. I will say this. Last year, they had a decision to make. Should they play the starters and get Saquon Barkley that record? And we all kind of said no. And we said, okay, well, if you're not going to go get that record, it better be worth it. Was it worth it? They went and won a Super Bowl. So why would you not follow the same thinking this year? I guess it's frustrating because of what happened in the Bear game. But on the surface, sight unseen, you don't know what's going on in that Bear game. Now, I'm more disappointed in a couple of things. One, Kevin Batula was awful yesterday. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't have won that game with the guys that were there for you. There's no reason why you shouldn't have won that game with Tanner McKee, who's better than Josh Johnson. By the way, Tanner McKee, could you imagine if he was your starting quarterback? Woof. He was pretty bad yesterday. He had opportunities to win that game, and he did not grab them. I'm more disappointed in the fact that Tanner McKee couldn't outduel a 39-year-old Josh Johnson who has 1 starting victory in his career. They made a joke yesterday about all the teams he has played for. He just beat you. He beat Tanner McKee yesterday because Tanner McKee was not good enough. Look, the Eagles were good enough with who they had. I thought Kevin Batula was awful yesterday. Tank Bigsby had a carry for 13 yards. That's the last time we saw him touch the ball. How do you go through a game where your backup players are playing and the one guy who's giving you a spark, you don't utilize him at all? I just didn't understand what Patula was doing yesterday. 609-403-0973 is the text board. 609-403-0973. That's the text board. That's how you get involved on the show, as always. And we're busy today. It's good to be back. I haven't been on the air since the 18th was the last time I was on the air.
Yeah, welcome back.
A lot of things have happened. Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year. Now, Larry David says the cutoff for Happy New Year was yesterday, so I can't use it anymore. It was actually Saturday.
Yeah,
so
it's technically Saturday, right?
Yeah, so I can't use Happy New Year anymore. Am I out on the Happy New Year?
Well, but you haven't been on the radio to say it, so I think there's like an out clause there.
Yeah, so that's my Happy New Year to everybody.
but
Hopefully
it's
everybody
done.
had a
It's
great
over with.
Yep, I got it out of the way. Hopefully 2026 is better than 2025. I hope to be busier and have more things going on than I did in 2025.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
We'll see what happens. Who knows, right? You never know. So here I am. I'm back after a couple weeks off. I saw them beat Buffalo. Look, the Eagles went on the road at Buffalo. Their offense was awful again. They didn't complete a pass. People were in an uproar about that. The fact that they won a game, didn't complete a pass. I thought Jalen Hurts was pretty damn good in that game. I thought Kevin Batula was awful in the second half of that game.
Well, I think, Mike, you mentioned about Tanner McKee yesterday. I think yesterday proved that the majority of the problem with the offense are not Jalen Hurts' fault. I think we saw it yesterday because there were multiple times that McKee was not on the same page with his receivers. There were multiple times that
McKee missed a lot of guys, man. There was guys open, and he did not pull the trigger.
But there were also times that, like, he's throwing them, like the one pass to Britton Covey, like, he threw the wrong way. He threw over the left shoulder instead of the right shoulder. Like, there were so many times that, like, they're running the ball, and it's, like, not getting anywhere. There were multiple times where McKee is, like, holding the ball for dear life.
But that's what I said. I was more disappointed in the fact that you couldn't win the game because you had the better quarterback. Tanner McKee is a better quarterback than Josh Johnson is.
Yeah.
You had the check mark there, and he could not get the job done for you yesterday. Awful interception, right? Awful interception.
I still don't know what he was trying to throw to.
There were times where he had guys open, didn't connect. Even the last play of the game. I mean, not the last play of the game, the fourth down where he throws the pass incomplete. Guys open. You got to make that throw. And you know how much is on the line. You know how much is at stake here. They're putting this game in your hands, buddy. And they couldn't get the job done. Now you'd say, well, the starters going to get the job done. Yeah, probably. Would the starters have won that game? Most likely.
But the difference is, Mike, you brought up what happened last year with Tanner McKee before you went on before you left for vacation, which was last time they started Tanner McKee. They ran specific plays that got him into a rhythm, right? He kept running that naked bootleg to the tight end again and again. And that first half against the Giants last year, he looked efficient. They did none of that stuff yesterday.
Well, it was weird because I will say the Eagles didn't do themselves any favors, right? Some mixed messaging here. Devontae Smith, why are you in that game, right? You're trying to keep everybody healthy, but you're playing Devontae Smith to get him 1,000 yards. Who the hell cares if he gets 1,000 yards? Really? Does anybody's day feel any better today because Devontae Smith got 1,000 yards? You know, and by the way, if that was A.J. Smith who decided he wanted to play to get 1,000 yards, A.J. Brown, would he be getting ripped today?
He'd be getting ridiculed. Yeah. First thing I said to you when I walked in the studio today was, hindsight now, yeah, could have played the starters. But you even said it was a bad look for Sirianni to play Devontae Smith. If you're going to say, I can guarantee my guys being healthy, which is more important than the 2 seed, then why are you even risk? Because the ball that Devontae Smith got the 1,000 yards on was a 50-50 jump ball where he had to reach for the stars.
Yeah, because once you're in the moment of the game, you're playing. You're leaving it all out there. You're not worried about, am I going to get hurt if I try to do this? So here's another thing. Not everybody sat yesterday. So could you have said, you know what, let's play our starters for at least a half and kind of scoreboard watch and see what's going on? Other teams did this yesterday. Jacksonville didn't need to play their starter. They went out. You know, Houston.
Texans did it, yeah.
Some of these teams started their guys, and then once the game was kind of like in whatever, they pulled the guys out of the game. If you're Philadelphia, yesterday I saw Jordan Davis on the field, right? I saw Jalix Hunt on the field. I saw Brandon Graham on the field. I saw Ojimo on the field. I mean, you played guys yesterday that are guys that you are playing. Now, somebody had to play. You had to play 53 guys. Sure. 22 of them have to play. So just by default, somebody had to dress. But the Devontae Smith thing, I thought that was a bad look to put him out there just to get him those yards and then pull him. Why not say, you know what? He's available to us. We need you on this last drive. What if Tanner McKee had Devontae Smith on that last drive to throw to instead of Britton Covey?
He still might have thrown it behind him.
He might have thrown it behind him, but Devontae Smith, that ball went right through Covey's hands. Now, it's a tough catch, but maybe Devontae catches that. But my point is, I think they got so relaxed yesterday with that whole game. They could have managed it differently. I don't have a problem with you saying we're going to rest our guys because, listen, couple things here. This is how I view this. See if you guys agree, disagree, indifferent. I see the text board, Josh, is lighting up. Am I wrong about that?
Oh, you're not wrong.
So we'll read off
some text. They are jamming.
We'll read off some text here in a little bit. But, one, San Francisco scored 3 points on Saturday night. They looked awful.
Terrible.
They had scored 40-plus points 2 games in a row. And this is the whole thing of like, oh, you got to play these guys. You got to get into some rhythm. It doesn't matter. It's who you play on that day, at that moment, at that time. San Francisco scored 3 points on Saturday night. Now, here's what I'll say. One, San Francisco Saturday night plays in a very physical game. They got beat up in that game, right?
They got injured.
They got beat up. They got injured. Seattle ran the ball at them like 40 times in the game the other night for like 190 yards.
Yeah, and they said after the game that part of their game plan, Seattle said, was their plan was that not that they were actually trying to hurt San Francisco, but they wanted to wear them down.
Right.
Physically.
But my point is this. San Francisco had to play a game on Saturday night, and they got worn down. Chicago, okay, they have now lost back-to-back games. They lost to the Lions yesterday, and that was a physical game.
Very
if you were
physical.
watching that game, I was flipping back and forth. I had the split screen going.
Me too.
That was a very physical game. What's to say that Chicago is out of gas? I mean, they played yesterday. They got beat up yesterday. The week before, they played San Francisco and gave up a 40-burger. They gave up 42 points in the game against San Francisco 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, Chicago's now lost back-to-back games. And the game before that they won was the game where they had to get the onside kick.
And
so realistically, you could be looking at a Bears team that's going into the playoffs with 3 straight losses. And I think the Eagles looked at that and said, you know what? I think it's more beneficial for us to be healthy with a week off and let those two teams go beat each other up. You can get the 2 seed. But I think the Eagles look at the Bears and kind of say, I think you're out of gas. And guess what? If you don't lose to Green Bay, we'll go to Chicago and beat you.
But also, with how the first Washington game ended, it was a scrap. It was a big scrap. You don't know if, like how you said, Seattle said, they didn't want to hurt San Francisco, but they were looking to, like, wear them down. Who knows? Maybe Frankie Louvu or someone on Washington's defense is looking at A.J. Brown or Jalen Hurts or someone and takes a cheap shot.
And that was the whole thing after the whole thing that happened in the game down in Washington with the 2-point conversion and then the fight. And then, of course, Dan Quinn had said we play them again in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
you had to be cognizant of the fact that could have been in their mind too.
You're right, Mike, because Dan Quinn said multiple times, and so did the players during the week, that they were coming in to win that game. They didn't care who was or wasn't starting. And by the way, there were multiple guys in Washington who had incentives, financial incentives to hit in that game. That's a factor as well. You have guys playing for their bank accounts against the Eagles backups.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you, like, everybody jokes all the time, oh, they've checked out, they're already in Cancun, they're already in Cabo
Not
Wabo.
yesterday.
Look at what happened yesterday. Detroit, they didn't end their season. They didn't give up. They went to Chicago and
Jahmyr
won that
Gibbs
game.
looked injured at one point yesterday. He was like, no, I'm playing this game.
The fact is this, there are still guys out there who have professional pride.
Yep.
And the Lions went to Chicago and said, you're a division rival of ours. If we beat you, it could hurt your playoff chances. So we are going to play to beat you. You saw that happen yesterday. You saw Washington say, you know what, we're on our 3rd quarterback. We're coming to win this game. You saw, listen, John Gannon got fired today, by the way, from Arizona. And they were fighting tooth and nail to try to beat the Rams yesterday. That game was close for about 3.5 quarters. And finally, Arizona was Arizona and just kind of ran out of gas. But they did not roll over and die and try to lose that game yesterday. So you can't take for granted that, like, hey, you're playing Washington and they're just going to come here, roll over and die. I had said all week long, I thought Detroit was going to beat Chicago, but you can't go in now. What I think is, I think that the Eagles could have tried to at least play their guys a half and said, look, let's see if we can get ourselves a little bit of a cushion. Now, mind you, they just played Washington 2 weeks ago and were losing 10-7 at the half. Now, that was against Marcus Mariota as opposed to Josh Johnson. But does anybody think the Eagles, they have some great offense that I missed all year, that they were going to go out there and blow the doors off this Washington team because their offense is so great? I'm sorry. I don't think that was the case.
I just don't think anybody could have seen how bad Keely Ringo and Jacorian Bennett.
Guys,
I don't think anybody foresaw that happening.
To be fair to those guys, and they were bad yesterday, they don't play a lot, especially Bennett hasn't hardly played at all. I mean, Ringo played a lot early in the year, but they don't play a whole heck of a lot. So to go out there and say, hey, go play a whole game now, you got to wonder where some of these guys kind of, especially like they were talking about during the broadcast, the guys on the defensive line, like some of those defensive tackles, they're like, dude, none of these guys ever play. Ty Robinson never plays. He actually pulled himself out of the game, Robinson. And I'm thinking to myself, if I'm the coach, and this is a guy who never plays, and he's asking out of the game, I got to wonder if I got to get rid of this guy, right? Like, I'm like, really? You never play? asking out of the game.
But then that goes back to the thing where if we play the starters and, God forbid, let's just say Quinyon Mitchell or Dory Jackson were to go down, now we got to go into the playoffs with Keely Ringo or Jacorian Bennett?
Well, that's the thing. So, and I hate, you hate looking at it like this. Calcaterra gets hurt. That pattern could have very easily
also,
been
are they going to throw flags on that ever? The hip drop?
Right.
Is that even a rule anymore?
But on that play, that's a play that very easily could have been Dallas Goedert getting hip drug like that, and then maybe he's out for the game. But Calcaterra getting hurt in the game, there's a possibility. Now, I know people don't really care if Calcaterra plays. In fact, it could work out to your benefit because if you get somebody else to block instead of Calcaterra. But if that could have been Goedert running that exact play there, that's a play that Goedert would have run.
And Goedert has a history of injuries, too. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, and then Brett Toth ends up getting a concussion, so he's out. So now you've lost depth on your offensive line. Let's say Dickerson, who has had some problems getting through games. Are we all on the same page? Let's say Juergens, for instance. Let's say Cam Juergens, and I know Juergens has not played well this year, but let's say he gets hurt in the game on Sunday, and now Brett Toth can't go into the game potentially because he got hurt playing. Now, somebody had to play in this game. I get it. But the point being is anybody could have got hurt if they played in this game. There's the risk and the reward. Is the difference between playing San Francisco and playing Green Bay all that big of a difference? Marginal. I think Green Bay is banged up, probably not as good as San Francisco. Now, the big thing would be that second game you would get at home, and that's the big difference there, I think. But I think Sirianni looked at it and said, I think we can go to Chicago and beat that team.
Sirianni was in a lose-lose. The only way he came out on top here after this weekend was Lions winning, which happened, and then Birds winning, no injury. Like, that's the only way people would have zero things to say about Nick Sirianni.
Let's fit in a couple text messages. What do we got?
So we got Clarence over in Delaware. He says 2 things. 1, the worst call ever was on the 4th and 4 with that pass. And then Ringo, words can't explain how bad he was playing for half of that game.
Ringo's terrible. He has no awareness. I mean, the play where Josh Johnson runs it in, he runs at him, and then he turns around and goes the opposite direction. What are you doing, dude? He's a very good what are they?
He's
gunner?
A great special teams guy.
Yeah, on the special teams, he's the gunner. He's excellent in that role. He is awful as a corner. He is always out of position. I mean, and
yes, he lacks fundamentals in so many areas.
Yeah, he is one of those guys that's so athletic, he doesn't know what to do with his athleticism.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike and Wildwood says, I couldn't agree more with Nick Sirianni on this. It was a great decision to rest. We go into the postseason healthy. This should have been an easy choice. With our inconsistencies this year, anyone we would have played would have been tough anyway. At home, healthy versus anyone this weekend, I take it, says Mike and Wildwood.
Agree with that, and here's why. If all these teams are very equal, and I think we all think they're all pretty equal, like, I don't know, Mike and Wildwood could say, I don't want to play the Niners. And Alex sitting next to me says, well, I don't want to play the Rams. And Josh over there in the Ocean Casino Resort studio says, well, I don't want to play Green Bay. I think if you ask the audience, we're going to have like 33, 33, 33.
Yeah.
Which means there was no clear-cut right team that you want to play. There's no like, hey, it wasn't like you had a chance to play Carolina. And Carolina would be the clear one that everybody wanted to play, right?
Correct.
I mean, the Rams played their starters yesterday to avoid Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
They played their starters yesterday so they didn't have to come to Philadelphia because they wanted to play the Rams,
exactly.
The Panthers. So if everybody is pretty equal, and I think we all agree to play the Rams, or I didn't want to play the Niners, or I didn't want to play Green Bay. They're all pretty close. The difference then would be one team is well rested. The other team just battled on Sunday and now is going in with a little extra wear and tear on their bodies. Is that the difference in making a deep run and not? It was last year. It was last year because last year you played a field, you played the Packers, you played the Rams, and those two teams, you beat them and wore them down, and late in those games was the difference. All right, we'll read off more text. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City on the other side, too. We'll see what he thought about it. Plus, all the playoff matchups are set. We have that. That is our first reaction to the Eagles' loss. It's brought to you by First Bank of Sea Isle City. This season, score big with First Bank of Sea Isle City. From savings to mortgages, we're on your team helping you reach the end zone. First Bank of Sea Isle City, your hometown bank, your winning play. I'm Mike Gill, back in the saddle and happy to be right back here at our Monday home. Fanatic Sportsbook. This place is going to be buzzing all weekend for the NFL playoffs. We'll set the matchup for you coming up in just a bit. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City up next.
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
He knows his team better than I do, but no way in hell. I'm playing my guys. And one reason why I'm successful in the hosting playoff game, if you get the 2 seed, you have a chance, number one, to have all 3 games at home. You know, because if Seattle stumbles, which is absolutely a possibility.
That's what Rex Ryan said this morning on Get Up. He said there's no way he would do it because you have won games at home. The Eagles have not won road playoff games all that often. They did win a game in Chicago in 2019. I do remember that. That was the double joint game. And, of course, there's a possibility they could be going to Chicago. Although, I don't know if you noticed this, everybody, the Packers are actually favored to win the game. They are a 1.5-point favorite in the game. Bears have lost 2 straight now, including yesterday's game in which if the Eagles would have taken care of business, they would have been the 2 seed playing the Packers. Instead, they are the 3 seed playing the San Francisco 49ers. Let's see what Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City has to say about the way the Eagles handled that game yesterday. And he was brought to you by Barkley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Serving South Jersey since 1911. Keep your home comfort game day ready this season. Maker, happy New Year, man.
Good to hear from you after a long break there.
Little recharge of the battery. I'm ready to go for a playoff run here. But, man, I'm back. The Eagles went out yesterday. What did you think about the decision Nick Sirianni made? I know there's a lot of hindsight here, knowing that the Bears lose that game. But does Sirianni play this right?
Yeah, I mean, even before the game, and Mike, you know me, I think I'm consistent about this. I believe in, Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. And I think as long as you have something to play for and the Eagles had something to play for, I don't get the benefit of just sort of turning up your nose at the number 2 seed and giving that away. I would have played the starters. I would have kept my eye on the Bear-Lions game. That's why the games played at the same time. Maybe, if Detroit had a 16-0 lead in that game. The Bears came back. Detroit ends up winning. Maybe that 16-0 lead, you could have pulled your starters at that point. But, if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I've got, I play the starters because I think the number 2 seed is valuable, although I agree with you, it might end up working in the Eagles' favor anyway, because, I think all of us can envision the Packers winning that game. And in that case, if the Eagles win, they're home for 2 games. So, I would play to win the game. I don't think Nick Sirianni handled the situation correctly, or the Eagles handled it correctly yesterday.
Well, I mean, look, last year they sat out the last game. Now they had everything wrapped up. They didn't really have anything to play for. They had the Barkley thing there. Right. They had the Barkley thing with that. They decided to bypass them. Could you make an argument, Mike, that, look, San Francisco, Green Bay, Los Angeles, they're all pretty close. I mean, maybe the Packers are a little bit of a drop. But if these teams are all very close and there's really no preference, how about being the team of those 4 that gets the week off?
Yeah, I mean, the other thought that that in trying to envision what Nick was thinking about going through the situation, and obviously he decided that the week off was a bigger benefit. The guaranteed week off was a bigger benefit than the possibility of the number 2 seed. And what it says to me a little bit is maybe the Eagles feel that this game coming up this Sunday, to have their best shot at beating either the San Francisco 49ers or the Los Angeles Rams. Nick's making the decision beforehand. We didn't know who was going to be that 5 seed. It was going to be the 49ers or the Rams. Maybe Nick felt that to be able to win this game on this Sunday, the Eagles needed that week of rest. And if they did not get that week of rest, it drastically reduces their chances of winning this Sunday. And you worry about the number 2 seed or the division round game the next weekend. So I can kind of buy that argument. But however, I still say if you've got a chance to go get the number 2 seed and it was right there in front of them and you're guaranteeing yourself home games, you've got to take it.
It's tough because, you don't know what's going on. But I think, Mike, the way they could have possibly played it, like some of these other teams, you start the starters, and then as the game kind of materializes, maybe you pull them out. I mean, you saw a lot of teams kind of doing that yesterday. The problem with that would have been that game in Chicago went down to the final moment.
Right. But, Mike, let's say you start the offensive starters, and this might be a bold leap with the way the Eagles offense has performed, but maybe you go up 14-0 on the Commanders. Maybe you go up 17-0 on the Commanders. Maybe you go up 21-7 on the Commanders. Then you get your guys out, right? Because you've done your part, basically. I think to not play them at all, I think was a mistake. I think what you just offered is a great compromise. Play some of them, play them at the start, see how the game unfolds, and then make a decision to get guys out of the game. That's a path there that I probably would have taken also.
Now, it sounded as if a lot of the players were on board with this, though, because, I mean, you could hear it in a lot of their voices that, hey, we needed this week off, and it sounded like they did value having – because you look at San Francisco, they played Saturday night, and, boy, they got whipped. I mean, they got beat up on Saturday night. That's a team now that got physically beat up and now has to travel across the country to play. You have the Bears who lost by giving up 42 the week before, then this week at home couldn't get anything going offensively. Now they got to play again. Meanwhile, Philadelphia just put their feet up. So do we see the value in that at all?
Yeah, Troy Aikman made that point during the broadcast of the game Saturday night, that game was so physical between Seattle and the 49ers that it's going to have repercussions for the 49ers this Sunday in Philadelphia. And, Mike, if you go back to last year, remember, Detroit and Minnesota were in that sort of same situation where they played at Donnybrook at the end of the season for the number one seed and the NFC North title. And neither one of those teams was the same after the game. Minnesota lost the game, then they got beat in the playoffs, and then Detroit ended up getting beat in the playoffs by the Commanders. So you can see that sort of late season Donnybrook and the impact that it had on both teams. However, the Commanders are not Seattle. The Commanders are not the 49ers. The Eagles, if they played their starters for a half yesterday, were not going to go through the same sort of physical toll that the 49ers went through at the hands of Seattle's defense. So I still would have favored going for the number 2 seed.
Well,
and your point to the players is correct. It's been my experience. Teams don't care about seeding. The Eagles aren't the only ones not to care. All teams want to do is get in, and then they have a belief in themselves, as the Eagles do. You heard Devontae Smith say it after the game. We just play our football. It doesn't matter who we play. We'll be okay. That's how teams think. 99.9% of the time, teams are not concerned with their seeding. All they want to do is get in, and they believe they can beat anybody that they face in the playoffs, and that's what the Eagles
And,
are.
Mike, I think in this instance here that the Eagles feel that if they play Chicago again, Chicago beat them up physically. They ran the ball right down their throat. But I think Vic Fangio was like, you're not doing that to me again, all right? You're going to have to come up with something better than you did the last time because the way you beat me on Black Friday, that ain't going to work. And I think they collectively are like, look, if we have to go to Chicago, so be it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, Mike, I think the biggest risk for the Eagles and getting back to the Super Bowl is the game this week. If they get through the game this week, I think they'll go to the NFC title game. I don't think any of us thought that the Chicago Bears were going to come into Lincoln Financial Field and beat the Philadelphia Eagles twice in, 5 or 6 weeks. That's not going to happen. That's why I wanted the number 2 seed. Do I think the Eagles can go to Chicago and win? Absolutely. But the Bears have a better chance of beating the Eagles in Chicago than they do in Philadelphia, where they had no choice. And like you said, Green Bay's favored, so it might be a moot point anyway. If the Eagles win, you got the Packers coming to Philadelphia, and you got your 2 home games anyway, and you got your rest. So I would have played the starters, but, Sirianni might end up getting both home games and the weekend.
I'll tell you what, you're right about that. Today we're all yelling and screaming about the fact that the Bears lost that game and then you had your opportunity. If they end up winning this game and Green Bay wins that game, it all becomes moot.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sirianni looks like a genius because he gets the rest and the home games. And look, the Bears went toe-to-toe with the 49ers 2 weeks ago. Yesterday's game, they looked disjointed. I watched a lot of the game. They got going late in the fourth quarter. You know, none of us really fear the Bears.
Well, the
or
Bears
the
feel
Packers.
like the Bears feel like that team that, you know, went from worst to first, and they had a great regular
Right.
season, and then they get to the playoffs, and it's like, okay, maybe next year. Now, the Bears beat you here in Philadelphia, so I don't know how arrogantly you can say you could go to Chicago and beat them, but I do feel that the Eagles brass is that arrogant to feel that if they play that Bears team again, that they would beat them.
Yeah, and I agree 100% with that. I don't think the Bears could beat the Eagles in Philadelphia, which is why I wanted the number 2 seed. I agree with you. Whatever chance the Bears have, I think the Bears have zero chance coming into Philadelphia and winning in Philadelphia in the playoffs. But the Eagles going to Chicago, I think the Bears got, 30% chance of winning that game, 35% chance of winning that game?
Mike, I'll tell you what I'm more annoyed by. The fact that they didn't play the starters and the Bears lost, it's frustrating, but I'm not as annoyed as I am at Kevin Petula and whatever the hell his offense was yesterday, because to me, you have Tanner McKee, they have Josh Johnson. I have the better guy, and I couldn't figure out a way to win that game. I had Tank Bigsby, and I didn't utilize him at all. I thought Petula was awful again yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of opens up questions to, about the Eagles' offense. How much of it is the play calling? How much of it is Jalen Hurts right there? Do the problems run deeper than just the personnel? So that is kind of alarming, though. But, Mike, I'm going to give the Eagles brass and Kevin Petula a little bit of a break of the game. I know that Tanner McKee is better than Josh Johnson, but not by much from what I saw yesterday, basically.
Well, you're right about that. Yesterday, I thought he was
– play well.
I agree, and I think for all the people that have been wondering what an offense – now, to be fair to Tanner McKee, he doesn't have A.J. Brown. He did have Devontae Smith, and I'll tell you what, Mike, I wanted to touch on that. That's not a good look that you sat everybody and said that you value that, but let Smith go out there and get a couple catches. I didn't think that was a good look.
Yeah, and you got to be consistent with these decisions. And I understand it's 1,000 yards and he wanted to get 1,000 yards and everything else like that. But if you can throw Devontae Smith out there for a quarter, why can't you play everybody out there for a quarter or a half? And again, see what the game is. And again, maybe you go up on the Commanders 21-0, and then you can get your guys out and you can put Tanner McKee in and Tank Bigsby in, and you really got the best of both worlds there. So I think yesterday the Tanner McKee truthers took a bit of a hit with his performance yesterday.
I will say this. I was at the game last year when McKee had like 4 completions to Goddard. They wanted Goddard to get back into the game because he had missed like 4 weeks prior. So he played like the first quarter, the first half. He had like 4 quick catches. They got him on these quick little shorts, and they got him the ball, pitch and catch. That's what you could have done yesterday. You had Smith. He was wide open, just 1, 2, 3, bang, and just kind of get it. Because you had a quarterback that's more of his strong suit, just getting it out quick. And you could have had an offense where you had your key guys and maybe the physicality. Because, Goddard, Calcaterra ends up getting hurt. That could have very well been Goddard on a play like that, the hip tackle over the middle of the field. But the guys on the outside, just quick little outs, let him catch the ball and get out of bounds. That's something that you probably could have done with McKee playing quarterback yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could have minimized the risk for some guys and everything else. Look, I just think Tanner McKee did not play well. I'm not going to come down on Tanner McKee. It's a tough spot to walk into. He had barely played all season long. Now you're going to start. And I think people expected him to go out there and look like, a guy who's capable of being an NFL starting quarterback. And he didn't look like that yesterday. So I think, again, people were just expecting too much of Tanner McKee. Again, reminds me of sometimes, some high school basketball prospects are highly touted. And I once said to a coach, the worst thing this kid can do is play, because he can only go downward by playing. Everybody thinks he's so good now he could go to Kentucky. He starts playing, he might end up at a MAC school, basically. And I think that's what happened to Tanner McKee. The more Tanner McKee stayed on the sidelines, the greater the legend of Tanner McKee would have grown. Yesterday, he actually had a play. And did not look so good.
Did not look good. The Eagles lose to Washington, and they are the number 3 seed. They will play San Francisco. We'll talk more about that. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City is back on Wednesday. You can check out all of his coverage over at pressofac.com. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Mike, we'll see you down the road. Happy New Year, buddy.
Yeah, you too, bud. We'll talk to him Wednesday, Friday here on the show. And, of course, all his appearances on the Sports Bash are brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, serving playoffs are set. We'll go through the matchups real fast. 3 o'clock, an early edition of the Nuggets today. Nicky Nuggets at 3 o'clock today on the Sports Bash. Plus, you'll hear from Nick Sirianni. Does he change his tune at all the day after? I don't think he will, but you'll hear what he has to say coming up at 3:30 today on the Sports Bash live at the Fanatic Sportsbook, where you can watch all of the NFL playoffs starting Saturday at 4:30 right here. You can listen to both games Saturday on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, we are your exclusive home in South Jersey for the Eagles and the Niners. Merrill Reese, Mike Quick, right here on Saturday afternoon. The coverage starts at 3. They kick off at 4:30. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash.
It's Sixers Nuggets tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Rises for 3. It's in the air. Rimming no Embiid with the rebound. He puts it back up. It's good, and he's fouled. Joel Embiid is back. He puts it in.
It's Sixers basketball tonight. Coverage begins at 8:30 on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia 76ers basketball. 97.3 ESPN.
Don't forget, Nuggets coming up in 8 minutes. Earnshaw will be back with the latest from the Nugget world. But right now, all right, so these are the matchups. Everybody's like, oh, the Eagles could have been a 2 seed. They would have played Green Bay if they were the 2. Instead, they end up playing San Francisco. So it is Chicago taking on Green Bay. Now, remember, those two teams just played 3 weeks ago. Green Bay was up in that game by 2 scores with, 2 minutes left.
Yeah, Bears won because of a onside kick that somehow bounced away.
Yeah, so they needed an onside kick. So it's not out of the realm of the possibility, by the way, that Green Bay would go to Chicago and win that game. They just literally did it. And they played 5 weeks ago because they played twice in a 3-week span, and Green Bay beat them. So they won the game at Green Bay. Then they were winning the game in Chicago. Chicago got the onside kick and ended up getting basically like a Hail Mary type of situation to come back and win that game. So if you're Green Bay,
there's got to be some confidence.
You feel like you can win that game on the road. You don't think that's an insurmountable game if you're Green Bay. Now, by the way, didn't Green Bay, correct me if I'm wrong here, I know it was on vacation for a little while. Did they just sign Diggs?
Yes, they did.
Yep.
So they added Diggs to the secondary.
By the way, they also did because they were lowering the claim order. They were blocking the Bears from getting him.
But they needed him.
They needed him too, but they were also trying to make sure the Bears can get because they're actually absorbing part of his contract. People were wondering if people want to absorb his contract or not, but they were like, we'll take the contract. We don't care.
All right. So Green Bay beat Chicago at Green Bay and then went to Chicago, lost that game. But, I mean, you can make a strong argument that they were the better team both times they played.
That was also the game that, remember Jordan Love was injured. Malik Willis, didn't play well on the stretch.
All right. Well,
also, yesterday in the Bears game, I was like you flipping it back and forth. The one time I flipped it on, CJ Gardner-Johnson was getting carried off the field. Is he out? Is he someone who's not going to be playing in this?
Well, I'll have to take a look at all the injury situations. But that being said, the other game, keep this in mind, everybody. L.A., the Rams, just went to Carolina 3 weeks ago and lost. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they would lose against Carolina again. Carolina just beat them. Now, do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But let's be honest. The Rams have not been playing very good football. They lost to Atlanta and Carolina in the last month of the season. Hardly world beaters. And then, of course, you got Philadelphia and San Francisco. These two teams last played, of course, in 2023. And the Eagles beat them in the NFC Championship game a couple of years ago. All right, we got all that. On the other side, Nuggets plus Nick Sirianni at 3:30. You don't want to miss the 3 o'clock hour. It's coming up next.
The wait is over. Touchdown! The quest for the Lombardi returns to South Philly. It's the wild card round as the number 3 seeded Eagles host the 6 seeded San Francisco 49ers at the Linc. Don't miss a single snap with the legends, Merrill Reese and Mike Quick, calling all the exciting playoff action. Here comes the rush. They've got him! Coverage begins this Sunday with the pregame at 3 p.m., followed by kickoff at 4:30. The playoffs live here. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles playoff station. WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City.
Back, yes, ready for the playoff run. The Eagles will take on the San Francisco 49ers. You're listening to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. PT's off today. He's like trapped in West Palm Beach.
Could be worse places to be trapped.
That's true. I know the flights are having problems getting out from a lot of different places. He went down to visit his parents for Christmas and hasn't returned yet. So Alex Berardis is my on-site producer today. Josh Henning is back at the Fanatics Sportsbook Ocean Casino Resort Studios. And it's time for the Nuggets. Nick Earnshaw is back with today's Nuggets. They're brought to you by Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your trusted source for plumbing service and installation for generations. Call 609-390-3907, online broadleys.net. Nuggets, what's up?
Oh, what's going on, Mr. Michael? Licks is in for cheap seats. Pete, absolutely love to see him. And he's right. He's right. Like, you could be in anywhere else in the world, in Palm Beach, down south, in Florida, wherever he's at. Pretty nice spot. I can't lie.
Yeah. Well, he's out today. He should be back on Thursday. Hopefully. I don't know.
We'll see.
I might be here a few more times.
Who knows? All right, let's get into these Nuggets. Nugget number one, we have to address yesterday's apparent debacle. This is no surprise to me, okay? Great, the Lions won. Awesome. I didn't care either way. The Eagles prioritized health, and they made the right call. I am in total agreement with Nick Sirianni in this decision for the most part. Now, I will say the Devontae thing was a little aggravating, sending him out there for the 1,000 yards. I mean, really, we didn't need that. That was unnecessary. Don't send anybody out there for the most part who's your top paid guys like a Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, etc. So I thought that was a little dumb. But overall, the message of sitting a majority of the guys, sitting a majority of the starters, still the right call. And if you go on social media, everyone I feel like they forgot what they were talking about. Like, oh, the Lions won. We should have. I feel like people switched up for the most part, to say the least, in this game and where they stood on the health versus home field debate. It would have been nice if they got the second seed. Great. But this is a wide open playoff. If you don't think the Eagles are good enough, this is a team that went 6-3 on the road this year, had wins in Green Bay, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, and Buffalo. Okay, those are not easy places to play. This team can win on the road. And if you don't think they can, then you don't think they're good enough to go win a Super Bowl. That's my estimation.
The Eagles valued being healthy, rest for the long-term run over matchups. Yes. They're saying, we don't think the Bears are any better than San Francisco, or the Rams are any better than the Green Bay Packers, or the Packers are any better than they're basically saying this playoff field had a lot of teams that are very equal but flawed. We're going to be the one team that goes in with the extra week rest. Seattle obviously gets it as well. But we'll take our chances being physically fresh against those teams who all were in battles this weekend. And if that's the difference, then that's it. Now, you could say they misplayed their hand, but they could be the 2 seed right now. And, maybe somebody got hurt yesterday. I don't know. I mean, I said Calcaterra got hurt. That could have been Dallas Goedert. Toth got hurt yesterday. That could have been Landon Dickerson. Brandon Johnson got hurt yesterday. That could have been Reed Blankenship. If you lost those 3 guys going into any game against any of these teams, you'd be saying, why did they play those guys? So they valued being healthy, being fresh over matchups.
Yes, and I think that was the right call. The Eagles will lose in the playoffs because of themselves. They will lose because of the play caller. They will lose because they didn't execute offensively. Defense is good enough. That defense is Super Bowl caliber. That can get you as far as you can go. The offense is what's going to lose them a game. Now, they have to get past San Francisco in the first round at home. You got to win that game first. Fine. But who's to say Chicago even gets past the first round? Who's to say they don't lose to Green Bay? I know Green Bay's banged up, but who's to say they don't even get to the second round?
Listen, we just talked about it. Green Bay beat Chicago, I guess it was like 5 weeks ago. And then they played again 3 weeks ago. And that was the game where Chicago got the onside kick and ended up winning. But Green Bay really should have won that game. I think Philadelphia looked at it and said, look, let Green Bay go take care of business against Chicago. If Green Bay beats Chicago, the whole point is moot anyway. You're back to basically being the 2 seed.
Yeah, and who's to say Seattle gets out of the second round after their bye?
I think Seattle is a flimsy one. I would say this. They are much different playing at home, but you couldn't catch them anyway, so there was nothing there. They earned that number 1. They had it by 2 games over you. So there's nothing that you could have changed to get the 1. But if you play Seattle, that's going to be a rock fight because both teams are really good defensively. Seattle's offense stinks.
Yeah, Sam Darnold could see ghosts at any point, at any time, any drive, anywhere. It doesn't matter. He could see ghosts at any point. And if, let's say, hypothetically, the Rams, they beat the Panthers. It's like 10.5-point favorites as of right now. The Panthers did beat the Rams this year, so that game's going to be interesting.
Panthers beat the Rams like a couple of weeks ago. This wasn't like early in the season.
Know.
This was a December game that the Rams lost 2 straight. They played their starters yesterday because they did not want to come to Philadelphia.
For argument purposes, I will say, let's say the Rams, they take care of business. They beat the Panthers. And let's say the Green Bay Packers beat the Chicago Bears. Who's to say the Rams aren't going to beat Seattle? The Rams could beat Seattle. I could see that happening.
I think everybody in this field could beat the other one. There's no team in Carolina's the weak link, obviously, but they have beaten the Rams already. So it's not like they can't do it.
No.
I don't think there's a team in the field that you would say they just can't beat that team. I think every team could beat the other teams. There's no team where, in the ASC, some years you get when Houston is in and they play that Saturday afternoon. They had a streak of like 8 straight playoff appearances where they played the Saturday 4:30 game that got snapped this year by Carolina, by the way. Houston is not playing in that game for the first time ever. You believe that?
They got the Monday game. How about that?
The Monday game is always a 4-5 game. So it was either the Carolina game or that game. But some years you have that where you have Houston is in the playoffs. They have no shot. Like there is no team that I don't think Carolina can make it to the Super Bowl, but I think they can win a game.
They could. They absolutely could beat the Rams. They've already proved it. They've done it this year. Absolutely can happen. I think it's so wide open. And if you're an Eagles fan, this isn't a few years ago where the 2nd seed you get a bye. All right. That's not the case. All right. This is you will get it. You're guaranteed a second playoff game. I think the Eagles could even get a second playoff game with the way this field is constructed. It's a weak field in my estimation. I think the Eagles are the most talented team of all the teams in the entire playoff race in the NFC, but they will lose because of themselves. If you don't think they're good enough to go on the road and win, then you don't think they're good enough to go back to a Super Bowl. I'm sorry, you're playing scared then. I would rather be healthy, have all my guys ready, and it seems like all the players were on board with it for the most part. You get Lane Johnson back, Kobe Dean, hopefully his hamstring's feeling a little bit better. You didn't want what happened to Calcaterra and all those guys because people would be going nuts. Like they're going nuts today about not going for the 2 seed and be the opposite. You could not win if you were Nick Sirianni. No way, no how.
I was more disappointed by one. Patullo yesterday, I thought was awful.
Absolutely.
I thought yesterday he had a chance. I mean, they were running the ball with pretty good success. Bigsby had a carry, 13 yards. His last carry was 13 yards. They never gave him the ball again. I mean, Bigsby he was running the ball well yesterday, and they completely got away. Dude, think about this.
I could see it from up there, Mike. I could see it from up there. Well, maybe he needs to be up there and see it a little bit better, right? Put him back in the booth like we were talking about weeks ago.
You got to exit the thing. Your connection stinks, by the way. It stinks. Get some high quality connection over there, Nuggets.
I'd like to see if the Eagles going down the stretch here, maybe we get our own Sonic and Knuckles like Detroit has with Gibbs and Montgomery. I think if you put Tank Bigsby and Saquon as a 1-2 punch, let them rest on the sideline, get a few touches here and there. I think because Tank's got speed.
No,
Like,
I agree. I to like split 50-50, but I definitely think that Bigsby just offers something different so that the defense sees a little something different. Like it's just a different look at him, possibly, hitting the corner, doing a little something. You can use him to kind of wear you down, pound a little bit. The problem with Bigsby, I think, has been in the past. He's had a lot of fumbling problems in Jacksonville, and I'm wondering if Philadelphia doesn't trust him, because he had fumble problems in the past. But I do agree that yesterday at 16 carries for 75 yards. So there was definitely more meat on the bone for him yesterday that they didn't give him enough touches. Think about this. They had Tanner McKee throw 40 passes yesterday.
Yeah, you're not winning with that.
40. Like, you're not asking Jalen Hurts to throw the ball 40 times, but you're going to ask Tanner McKee, hey, buddy, come on in and chuck it around 40 times?
The one time they definitely should have went to Bigsby was, I think it was either the second or third drive when they got the fourth down and they didn't get it. They had 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 at the shotgun both times. What are we doing here?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, the last carry he had was a 13-yard carry, and then he never touched the ball again. What are we doing? Asking, again, Tanner McKee, you asked him to throw 40 passes yesterday in a game that, by the way, it's not like you were playing from behind all game and you had to chuck your way back into the game. You asked the backup quarterback to throw 40 passes. It's ridiculous.
With Britton Covey as his number 2.
Yeah.
All right. Got me back? Am I fine now? Am I good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. As I was saying, yeah, I can't understand that Tanner McKee throwing the ball 40 times. I mean, that's malpractice. And where were the bootlegs? Josh and I went to the game last year at the end of the year. There was bootlegs, all this stuff, and they didn't run it. Tank Bigsby looked great. Why they didn't go back to him more often than just 16 times? I would have ran it. You had the better team yesterday. You could have won it. Kevin Patullo is going to be the death of this team this year. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be because of themselves, and not getting rid of him earlier on in the season, not making a change somewhere, some way. That would be the reason I think they fail and lose. It's not going to be because they're not talented enough or not good enough. It's because of the malpractice on the coaching staff. That's why they'll lose in the playoffs if they don't make it.
I totally agree. The fact that and by the way, you had the better quarterback. McKee was better than Josh Johnson, and you completely mismanaged the whole situation because right now, honestly, their offensive line, I think, is a big problem. Hopefully this week off for all these guys gets them as fresh as they can be. But Patullo is inching his way up to the top seed as a bigger problem.
Yeah, he is becoming the biggest problem they have. Honestly, he's been the biggest problem. What am I saying? He's been the biggest problem the entirety of the year, in my opinion. All right, let's move along. Nugget number 2. Let's get into some baseball. All right. Phillies made a move today. They go out and get Donnie Baseball to be the bench coach, officially announced today and reported. How about this? This is a fascinating one. Coming from the Toronto Blue Jays, bench coach last year, obviously was in the World Series. But the rumors swirling around for a bigger name who has a great relationship with Donnie Baseball, Mike Gill, and that's Bo Bichette. You got to go get Bo Bichette. Now, John Heyman over the weekend tweeted out a report saying the Phillies are among the teams interested in Bo Bichette at this point. Listen, JT Realmuto, sayonara. You've been waiting too long. You want that 3rd year? I'm done. I'm out. JT, switch up the team. If you can go get a Bo Bichette, maybe convince him to play third base, move on from Alec Boehm. Oh, I'm in. I'm totally in on that. I think this could be a chess move by Dave Dombrowski to bring Donnie in. Go get Bo.
Well, I've been talking about this for weeks. I know I've been off, but I did talk about this, I think, right before I left. At this point, I've made my offer to JT. He's sitting on it. I pull that offer and say, JT, I'm sorry. I made you the offer. If you don't want it, we'll move on. You move on from JT. You try to move Boehm for pennies on the dollar. That clears up Boehm's $10 million. The money that you offered towards JT, you put those together. That should give you some money, and then whatever left over, Bo Bichette changes this offense. Bringing back JT Realmuto does not change this lineup. You can get a guy to catch. I know he's not BCBP and throwing guys. No, Marshawn throws guys out. He's fine. You can find someone to catch. and hit 240 with 12 home runs, which is basically what JT Realmuto gives you. 240, 12 home runs. There's a guy out there, Victor Caratini down there in Houston. He hit 247 with 12 home runs last year, had a better on-base percentage. He's probably as good, if not a better offensive catcher. Not as good defensively, not saying that. Switch hitter, but offensively, if I bring back JT, my lineup's the same. But if I bring in a guy like that, and then I can spend the money to go get Bo Bichette, that makes me different. Sorry, you hate to lose JT. He's been a great Philly. Time to move on. If I can get better with Bo Bichette, I go out and do it.
Yeah, if you're in a position to utilize that cash to go get a player of Bo Bichette's caliber, you go do it. I don't care what it takes. At this point, you already signed Kyle Schwarber. You're essentially the same team running it back right now. But if you get Bo, that gives another element to this lineup that could elevate there. You could have protection for guys in the heart of the order. That's why you get Bo Bichette. And he's a player that can make a difference. And it gives you something more on the offensive side. And then if you get something out of Adolis Garcia in right field, okay, this lineup, it's looking much better than it was last year, right? Like, you get him to elevate in right field, be a better defender, and hopefully the bat comes around a little bit for Adolis Garcia. You add Bo Bichette in the mix, in that heart of the order, that's very dangerous. Now I'm getting a little bit more excited for spring training. But if you bring back JT now, you bring in Donnie Baseball, I can't get excited. JT is a player that's getting, older and older and older. I can't waste my time.
No, listen, if you bring back JT Realmuto, you're basically bringing back the same lineup. You're saying that, hey, Bohm, you're going to hit 4th or 5th, somewhere in the middle of the lineup, and JT, you're going to hit 5th or 6th, somewhere in the lineup is not changing at all. So if you move on from JT, as much as you don't want to say that, listen, Marshawn throws out runners just as well as JT does. He's probably a better framer and defensive catcher. The one area that I do think you can make a legitimate conversation about is the veteran pitching staff likes JT and how he handles the pitching. That is something that is real and that you might take a little bit of a step back in. But offensively with this lineup, JT Realmuto coming back, it's not all of a sudden this guy's going to hit 270 with 20 home runs all of a sudden. He has been a declining offensive player. You would be bringing back a declining offensive player. So make a change there and go get a better offensive player. You need someone. Listen, you spent $300 million on Bryce Harper and have no one to hit behind him. Go get someone to protect him.
Yeah. For the guy who's not elite, get somebody behind him and put a guy there like Bo Bichette. It'd be great. It'd be great for your not elite player that Dave Dombrowski has talked about. And, Bryce Harper is now embraced. Put Bo behind him. Maybe he could be more elite with some protection back there. It'd be nice. You do have the argument, though, with the catching perspective with the pitching staff, because pitching staff, it's not going to be the same as last year. It's just not. You have a lot of.
You got Zach Wheeler.
That's a fair argument.
You got Zach Wheeler, who has thrown to JT Realmuto his whole career here. You've got Aaron Nola, who has thrown primarily to JT Realmuto. You've got Luzardo, who's thrown to JT Realmuto. You've got, obviously, Taijuan Walker, who's thrown to JT Realmuto. And then when Painter comes up here, it would be nice to have a veteran like JT Realmuto. I acknowledge that could be something. That being said, I've got to find a way to get my lineup better. And over the course of the season, I think the pitching staff will get used to whoever the new catcher is by the time the playoffs roll around.
I think you have to bite the bullet, even though there's a lot of what-ifs on the pitching staff right now, Andrew Painter being one of them. We don't know what you're going to get out of him. He didn't have a great year coming off Tommy John last year. 3 years is too long for JT, for a guy who also just had surgery.
Quite frankly, I think 2 years is too long. I don't want JT signed for 2 more years.
Yeah, it's a long time. At three's, that's why I said three's just, I can't do that. That's awful. That's awful for a catcher at his age who's had knee surgery, who's been declining every year. I'm out. All right. Before I get out of here, one more nugget. We got 3 nuggets in today. How about that? That's it's been a while. We're starting off the new year with getting them all in today, Mike. It's fantastic. I love it. All right. So if you watched last night's game, just a thriller between the Steelers and the Ravens. Tyler Loop missed the field goal, okay? Wide right, missed it. Did you guys see that apparently the Steelers had a priest bless the field with holy water during the pregame? This is unbelievable. And it was the same end zone that the kicker for Baltimore missed in. Unreal.
Did he also
bless
the other end zone where his guy missed the extra point?
Not sure, but guess what? This end zone was blessed, and they found the way to win. So the Steelers I think there was a little bit of something going on there that we just may not understand, Mike, yesterday.
That was an unbelievable last minute and a half of that game. To have them go down with Aaron Rodgers, score that touchdown, then miss the extra point, then Baltimore on 4th down and 11 with basically the season on the line. They get Isaiah Likely behind the defense. He goes up, makes an unbelievable catch. They get into field goal range with an absolute chip shot, and Loop misses the kick. Not a chip shot, but in today's world, where everyone's kicking, the guy yesterday for Jacksonville kicked a 67-yarder yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, that was essentially a gimme, and, well, something pushed it wide right, Mike. Something pushed it. It was blessed for the game. I'm just saying, unbelievable, to say the least. There's your 3 nuggets for today.
All right, yeah, that was – how about this? The NFL season literally came down to the final play for the final team to make the playoffs.
Unbelievable. What a weird year. Odd year.
Great year.
Great year, but
odd year. Yeah, because think about this. How many people at the beginning of the year had Denver and Seattle being the 1 seeds?
Nobody.
How many people at the beginning of the year would say, yeah, the playoffs are not going to include Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, who else didn't get in? Joe Burrow didn't get into the playoffs this year. I mean, how many teams went from worst to first this year? You had the Bears go from worst to first. You had the Patriots go from worst to first. I think there was another team, right?
But it was also like a tale of 2 halves of the year. We had Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield was getting MVP considerations. Daniel Jones in the AFC with the Colts. They were, 8-1 or something like that? And then second half of the year came plummets.
By the way, the game last night, Jacksonville, did they go from worst to first?
They were at the bottom of the barrel, I think, last year. They might. I think so. Close.
Yeah, they had the 3rd overall pick, and then they traded to the number 2.
So that's another team. I thought there was 3 teams that went from worst to first. So there was 3. There was the Bears, there was the Patriots, and there was the did Carolina go from worst to first?
I think Carolina was middle of the pack in the division last year.
It's a bad division
in the
NFC
Saints.
South.
That being said, the Eagles' schedule for next year is now finalized in terms of their opponents. And with the Steelers' win last night, Philadelphia will play the Steelers, who won the North. They will play the Bears, who won the North. And the other team they will play is Carolina, who won the South, which means I looked at this earlier today. The Eagles next year will play like 5 quarterbacks who were the number 1 overall pick in the draft. They've got Matthew Stafford. They have Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, Cam Ward, Trevor Lawrence. That's 5 different quarterbacks that were the number 1 overall pick in the draft that they will face next year. 9 home games next year because the NFC gets the extra home game now. So they have 9 home games and 8 road games. And next year they will play, how about this? The Eagles will play the NFC West, which means San Francisco, Seattle, the Rams, Arizona, and they will play the AFC South, which means Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and Tennessee. They are their crossover games next season as well. All right, Sports Bass Live, 97.3 ESPN. By the way, the Jaguars were second to last. Carolina was tied for last place last year with the Saints. So
how about that?
All right, there's our Nuggets today for a Monday edition, Nick's Nuggets, a little early edition of the Nuggets today. They're back again tomorrow right here on the Sports Bass Live, 97.3 ESPN. All right, Nick, take care. Coming up, Nick Sirianni. All right, he will react to what happened yesterday, and he slept on it. Does he feel any different? Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie got involved in this decision as well, no?
Yeah, there had to be some higher-up calls on this.
All right, you'll hear what Nick has to say, and now they know they'll play the 49ers. Remember the last time the Niners played a playoff game here, they knocked Purdy out of the game. And you know who came in that game?
Mr.
Josh Johnson. And then they knocked him out of the game. And Purdy had to come back in. And this should be a little different this time around. More Sports Bash on the way. Nick Sirianni next here on the Sports Bash.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill
And it just keeps getting better.
on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
On 97.3 ESPN.
At the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. We're waiting on Nick Sirianni, who is not out yet, which is interesting because he was scheduled to speak at about 3:15, so he's about 15 minutes late.
Trying to figure out what excuse to give.
I wonder how this is going to go today. Is he going to backtrack at all? I doubt it. I don't think he will.
You can't. You have to stand on what you believe in.
Don't forget, when the Eagles win, you win. A great order is placed in Tandoori Chicken Wings for dine-in customers at the Nizam. They are great lunch buffet Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They also bring banquets for 100 people for private events and celebrations. That's over at the Nizam. They are outside of Box House in the parking lot there. Don't forget, Sports Bash next hour. Football at 4. Jeff Mosher here. The unfortunate moment of the day. Great tonight at 5 o'clock right here. And we have a lot going on today. I will say this about the Eagles and not playing their starters yesterday. I didn't have a huge problem with it because I do value them being healthy, and I think that could be when you have a lot of teams that are very equal. I think one of the differences, hey, my team didn't play, basically had the week off, and you had to play last week. I think at 18 weeks into the season, that does matter. I also think that Chicago is a flimsy 2. Now, that doesn't mean that Chicago doesn't blow the doors off Green Bay and you got to go to Chicago and who knows what happens. But I just don't think there was a path that I would say is any better. Now, playing at home is better than on the road. There is no question about that. But I definitely think I value being 100% healthy, entering the playoffs, as opposed to having to play this week and battling it out. Now, do I think that they possibly could have, played some starters and maybe had that, did some scoreboard watching? Possible. But the problem with that would have been the Lion-Bears game came down to the last minute. All right, Josh, 609-403-0973. While we're waiting for Sirianni, why don't we squeeze in some more text messages? I know we got a lot today. So
yeah, there's way more than we're going to be able to squeeze in. But let's just squeeze in a couple here. I wanted to start with one of the more recent ones. Gabe in Northfield chimes in, Mike, I actually think this scenario works out best. Call me crazy, but my crystal ball shows me the Eagles will be in the NFC Championship game against the Rams, says Gabe in Northfield.
Listen, if Gabe would have said the Eagles would be in the NFC Championship game against Seattle, I would have said sure. If he says against the Rams, I would say sure. If they says against, there's not a lot of other options there. I mean, Green Bay, doubtful. They can't play Green Bay. Oh, maybe they could. I guess Green Bay, if they beat the Bears, Green Bay would go to Seattle.
Correct. And then Green Bay beats Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, Philly's path right now, if everything plays out, would be Philly. If they beat San Francisco, if the seeds play out, they would go to Chicago in the next round. Now, let's say the Rams win that game. I mean, not the Rams. Let's say the Packers win that game. The Packers would then go to Seattle, and Philadelphia would then face the Rams. But that game would be in Philadelphia. The Rams have to come to Philly. So you do get another home game in that situation. So, all right, Nick Sirianni is ready to go. Let's hear what Nick Sirianni has to say about his team's loss yesterday, sitting the starters, and how they feel about it after sleeping on it.
themselves. That's the guy.
Sirianni, and I don't think anybody asked him, by the way, whether or not he regrets sitting the guys. I know he was asked that yesterday right off the bat. He kind of answered that yesterday. But, hey, now that you've had time to kind of think about it, you slept on it, do you think that was the right decision? That question that I remember anyway, did I miss that question? I did not hear anybody ask that question whether or not he was kind of thinking about that at all. But quite frankly, I don't think he is. I think Nick. We are going to rest our guys to maximize health, and we think the healthiest team at the end will be the best team. We'll find out, because if it doesn't work out for them and they go out there and get lambasted by San Francisco, it's going to be questioned, and that's when I think you can question it. We all are so quick to act right now. I will say this. I thought playing Devontae Smith was kind of a bad look yesterday, getting him his 1,000 yards. 2, you went for it at Buffalo. When you won the game at Buffalo and the Bears lost last week, did you owe it to yourself to say, you know what? We did our part. The Bears did their part. They lost. Let's go for this. Let's try to get the 2 seed. And the Eagles said, we don't value the 2 as much. All right, when we come back, more Sports Bash on the way, including the 4 o'clock hour, Football at 4, our first Football at 4 of 2026. Jeff Mosher's in the house, and the unsportsmanlike moment of the day. We're going to do that at 4:30 today. We'll do that at 4:30 today on the Sports Bash Live, this hour of the show. It is brought to you by Broadleaf Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing, service, and insulation. Call them at 609-390-3907, online, broadleaf.net. Sixers tonight take on the Nuggets. No Jokic. Is he duck? Embiid? Nah, just kidding. Is Embiid back? Have you seen Joel Embiid recently? It looks like a new man out there. We got all that and more. By the way, Sixers have won 3 in a row, all on the road. They went to the Knicks, Madison Square Garden, and beat them up on Saturday. They play the Nuggets tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Yell. More Sports Bash on the way.
The wait is over. The quest for the Lombardi returns to South Philly. It's the wild card round as the number 3 seeded Eagles host the 6 seeded San Francisco 49ers at the Linc. Don't miss a single snap with the legends, Merrill Reese and Mike Wick, calling all the exciting playoff action. Here comes the rush. Coverage begins this Sunday with the pregame at 3 p.m., followed by kickoff at 4:30. The playoffs live here. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles playoff station. You're listening to The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, the final hour, 3 o'clock hour is in the books when we come back. By the way, Tyrese Maxey has just been named the Eastern Conference Player of the Week, averaging 35 points a game. The Sixers went 3-0 with 3 road wins. They won in Dallas. They won in New York. What was the first game?
Lost in Chicago.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
They beat Dallas and somebody else. Who was that other game? And then they beat the Knicks. Tonight they'll play the Nuggets, but really good win against the Knicks the other night. That was a really good win against the Knicks. That's tonight they take on the Denver Nuggets, and you can listen to that game. 8:30 start right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, coming up next hour, football at 4 is in the what was the other one? Mavs what? Mavs, Knicks was the third one. Grizzlies, they beat the Grizzlies 3 straight.
South Jersey's official play-by-play home of the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers.
At 0 point would I ever consider not being a fan of the team.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. That's where we are. Mike Gill and the Sports Bash. We are live. We are back. It's a Monday. Eagles lose, and they will now play San Francisco. They'll be here at Lincoln Financial Field, but of course the big story was they had a chance to win that game and then earn the number 2 seed. Was it an egregious mistake by the Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni and the Eagles? Did they make a egregious decision yesterday? Should they have at least tried to win that game? I said I'm actually more upset that they asked Tanner McKee to throw 40 passes in a game that they pretty much led throughout. Like, really? In a game that you had the lead for most of the day, you asked your backup quarterback to throw 40 passes in the game. I think that's something we should probably be looking a little bit more at. But see what Jeff Mosher thinks from the Inside the Birds podcast as he is back for the first Football at 4 for 2026. Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast. Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year to you too, Mike. I hope you had a good one.
I did. I had a nice and quiet New Year's this year, and back ready to go for the stretch run here. I want to get your thoughts on, of course, what happened yesterday. Not a surprise that they sat everybody out. They were the one team that did it. I don't think anybody else really went just full out sitting all their players yesterday. So obviously knowing what happened in Chicago, do you look back at that and wonder why they didn't play some of their guys?
No, I mean, I knew why they weren't. They were pretty clear on how they valued the rest element of it. And, you know, I'm sure Nick Sirianni, when he made the decision last week, knew of all the different possibilities that could happen, including the Bears losing. It's not like the Bears had an easy draw. You know, they would play the Lions, who were a division team, and we're going to play their starters. So I had said last week in the show that I value the second home game that you could potentially get as the number 2 seed, right? Or that you would get as the 2 seed. So if it were my decision, I would have played the starters, but I understood completely his decision not to. So I'm not going to sit here and go back and criticize him for it, because I think there's a lot to be said about how banged up the Eagles were in the trenches, and there's a lot to be said for their road record under Nick Sirianni since he took over. It's the best in the NFL, I believe, over a 5-year span. So they have confidence that they can go and win that game on the road if it comes out that way in the second round. And so that's their decision. So the one thing I will say that I don't think I've ever seen coaches do is rest starters and then all of a sudden put them in the second half because they're scoreboard watching and they see an opportunity. I've seen coaches pull guys after halftime when the result isn't. I think that's what the Texans wound up doing, but not the reverse. So anybody who suggests that they should have played their starters in the second half when they saw the Bears were not good, that's just a great way to get your guys hurt, you know?
Right. You could have flipped it around the other way and started the game with your starters and then kind of did some scoreboard watching. The problem with that is you've been watching the scoreboard the whole day because it came down to the last minute of that other game.
Right. And that's why I think, you know, if you were going to rest your starters from the jump because of health, then that's it. You make that decision. Now, I will tell you, I question playing Devontae Smith to get 1,000 yards when last year you didn't play Saquon Barkley for rest purposes, and you didn't let him get his record. The NFL, and I get that it's not apples to apples because you need offensive line to block for you, and then you have to play everybody. But that's not the point. The point is you're resting guys for health-related purposes, right? And that you played Devontae Smith. So to me, it's inconsistent. And I was kind of surprised to see Jalen Hunt out there for as long as he was, Nolan Smith out there for as long as he was. So it was a very inconsistent to me messaging from the head coach to what he wound up doing on game day.
Yeah, I mean, late in the game, you got Jordan Davis in there as they basically were down on the goal line. You're trying to bring in some beef up front. I mean, they did have some, a lot of the defensive. Brandon Graham was out there playing, so they had some guys. But it seems most that they certainly look at it like this. We value the health, and we think that could help us make a deeper run than opponent, meaning we didn't have any certain opponent. We didn't care who we played. We feel that we could beat any of these teams if we're the healthier version.
Yeah, I think, and I think that there's some legitimacy to that. I think there's some fairness to that, and listen, someone could disagree. And again, if it were my decision, and I think sometimes you do have to trust not only the head coach who's got a pretty good track record here and won a lot of games, but he knows his team better than even me or, any obviously media person or fan. And I think it's pretty telling that he made this decision. I think what he's basically saying, but not really out loud, is we are really, really, really banged up, okay? We're not just resting starters to get a week's worth of rest, but we got a right tackle who hasn't played in 6 weeks because of Liz Frank. We got a center who just hasn't played like himself at all year. We got a left guard who hasn't played like himself all year, and he's been banged up. We got a defensive tackle who missed 3 games to get, these injections in his shoulders. And yes, he made it back for a week, but even he has said that it's not like he's 100% or that it was a be all to end all. I mean, these are really important players, and it's not like they're nursing little small minor bumps and bruises. They've all been a shell of themselves this year. So I think when you frame it that way, it makes some sense, at least his logic of resting those guys.
Well, and most they do have a little precedent here. Last year they rested and ended up making it and going to the Super Bowl. And now things that happened in front of them, the fact that the Lions, the number 1 seed, ended up losing, that got them an extra home game. And then a couple of years ago, they played their guys in the last game of the season. A.J. Brown ended up getting hurt. They got banged up in that last game. So they did have some precedent to say, you know what? I think we value just not getting anybody hurt in this game, and we'll take our chances. Whether we have to go to Chicago or not, we'll deal with that.
Exactly. There's precedent there. So that's why, even though I may have done it differently, I completely understand his decision, why he did. And you're talking about last year, they were far healthier last year up front than they are this year. So this year, even more so, understand that you could understand why he did it.
What did you take away from the game yesterday? Because I was looking at it, I said, Tanner McKee, they asked the guy to throw the ball 40 times. I mean, they don't ask Jalen Hurts to throw the ball 40 times. I mean, to me, you had a shot to win that game if it was managed better.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit, not that you didn't watch it, I'm sure everybody did, but I feel like when you look at the 40 dropbacks, that it becomes like box score scouting. Like 15 of those throws were in the fourth quarter when the game was tied or the Eagles were behind, right? I mean, they went into that game. Washington had the opening drive of the fourth quarter, and then they wound up tying the game. So then you've got 15 passes basically in the final 9.5 of the game when it was tied. So I can't really – I don't feel like they came out throwing and throwing and throwing and ignoring. I feel like they started throwing when it was tied and then when they got behind. So to me, it wasn't as egregious as maybe some other people have made it out to be, or how you might think it to be. I just think in general, I picked the Commanders to win the game on my Philly voice phone for the exact reason of I knew that at some point in this game, the Eagles were going to have a center who had never started a game, a right tackle, and Cam Williams, who was basically a rookie, never started a game, and just got practicing 3 weeks ago. And I thought that was going to cause a lot of problems for the Eagles offense. And everybody was like, yeah, but the Commanders. Well, the Commanders have like Daron Payne out there. They have Jacob Martin out there. They got a guy like Von Miller. Like, it wasn't like when they played the Giants last year and the Giants had like backups at every single position. I guess this is not a good Commanders team, and they did have a lot of backups in, but I don't think it was the same. I thought the Eagles were going to have some problems up front, and they did. Like I thought McKee looked uncomfortable.
Fourth quarter, they score to make it 17-17. You go 3 and out by throwing 3 straight passes. The last time Bigsby had a carry, he gets 13 yards. He never touches the ball again the rest of the game. The score is 17-17. I mean, it's not like they were down 2 scores and they needed to start airing it out all over the place. That's what I'm saying. You basically put the game in McKee's hands.
You did, but first and 10, you get a 6-yard pass, a completed pass from McKee to Granson, and then you're at the 41-yard line, and you get 2 incompletions. And to be honest with you, I thought he had. I've looked at these dropbacks, man. He was just off target. So could you have ran it on 2nd and 4, got a first down? Sure, but you have to throw the ball at some point, right? Sure. And his throws were just off. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure 2 or 3 Bigsby runs in the fourth quarter is going to matter as much as we think. He had like a couple of. I thought had a couple of good runs, but he was really more effective catching the ball. He averaged 4 point something a carry, which was good, inflated by a couple of nice runs. But he had his share of 1, 2, 3, type runs. And once Cameron Williams got in the game, I thought they had some issues running the ball too. So.
Yeah, listen, and I think it puts to rest a little bit, that, hey, this offense would look, different if you had a guy like McKee. He had a rough day yesterday. Now, if he had A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith all day, who knows? Smith, by the way, had 3 catches for 52 yards, and that led the team yesterday. So, obviously, the pass game had its struggles. They did run the ball, by the way, 19 times for 80 yards. So, it wasn't they didn't. They got a little bit going there, but they kind of just completely got away from it in the fourth quarter. Then, you mentioned in the end, you lost to Josh Johnson. I know you're playing your backup defense there, but a lot of starters were playing up front where you could have got enough pressure to confuse that guy. The secondary, though, is another reason why you can't play starters, because if you got one of those guys hurt and had to play any of those guys yesterday, you'd be in big trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And that's what I wrote for Philly Voice, is that, this game shows you how perilously close the Eagles are to not being so good if there were an injury to Quinyon Mitchell or if an injury to Cooper DeJean. Like last year, Nakobe Dean got hurt, right? Well, they were fortunate. They had a really good backup, Oren Burks, who could come in, play alongside Zach Vaughn, and there was almost no drop-off. Burks played well. But if you had an injury to DeJean or Mitchell, if it were both, that would be even worse. Even a Dory Jackson, right? That forces a guy like Bennett or a guy like Ringo in there, and that's not great. And if you had an injury at safety, because you already got down Makuba, and I don't know that he's going to be back anytime soon. If you get an injury to Epps or an injury to Blankenship, then you're on, Cindy Brown. And
on that real quick, Moshe, if Makuba was back and healthy, do you think they would still stick with Epps?
No, I think that becomes a question of conditioning and, you haven't practiced in 5, 6, 7 weeks. How are you? But if you're asking me if all things are equal, who would Vic Fangio go with? I believe it would be Andrew Makuba.
Okay. All right. Well, the Eagles, do you anticipate Lane Johnson playing on Sunday?
I think the Eagles are hoping he plays on Sunday. I mean, we'll find out on, I guess, Wednesday when they start practice. But, if he's not able to practice this week, right, then that's a bad situation. Obviously,
I didn't know if it it felt like it was just getting close, and then they just figured, just wait until let's not use you in any of these games. I don't know if it's at that point.
Well, remember, they didn't put him on IR, correct?
Right.
So they thought he was going to be back in that originally, and they were hoping to have him back in that 4-week span, and then it didn't, and then. The last 2 weeks sort of became, can we do it without him? So, but right. You're making a good point, and that's where I'm at on Wednesday. Will he be out there at practice? And if he is, will he be more than just limited?
I would say, I don't know. My only indicator was, and maybe just because, you don't want to do a disservice to the quarterback, but them playing Fred Johnson at left tackle yesterday instead of right tackle, you figure, if we think Fred's got to play right tackle, wouldn't you just keep him there?
You mean for Sunday's game?
No, yesterday.
That's what I meant. Yesterday's game, Sunday's game. Would you have kept? Should they have? You're asking me if they should have kept Fred Johnson at?
If you didn't think Lane Johnson was going to play, would you have just kept Fred Johnson at right tackle?
No, because what they wanted to do, I wouldn't have played Matt Pryor at left tackle at all, ever. And then certainly not the rookie Cameron Williams, who only played.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, because you don't want to do a disservice to the quarterback.
Yeah, like even though you're not trying to win per se and you're playing your backup, you still got to put the guys in the right spot to make sure that you're not a complete total disaster.
Got it. All right. Jeff Mosher, Football at 4, the Inside the Birds podcast. We got you all week long getting you ready for Eagles and Niners. We'll talk more about the matchup on Wednesday when Mosher's back here. Adam Kaplan tomorrow. And, of course, you can listen to the Eagles and the Niners right here on Sunday, 4:30 on 97.3 ESPN. Thanks, Moshe.
See ya.
All right, man. All right, we'll keep it here for a couple minutes. Real quick, let's take a look at, by the way, that fourth quarter. So Washington scores the touchdown. It's 17-17, right? The Eagles get the ball back. They go 3 and out. They throw the pass to, he mentioned it, to Granson, and now it's 2nd down and 4.
That was a good pass, too. I'll give him credit. It was on the money.
He made a couple of decent throws yesterday. It wasn't like he was terrible the whole day, but the throw that he has that he could keep that game going, guy's open, he missed him. He just missed him. And I don't know. The 4th down play, I don't know what the heck he was doing on that throw. Terrible.
I feel like yesterday Jalen Hurts was the biggest winner out of anybody. One, it shut up all the McKee lovers saying he should be in over Hurts. And then 2, I think it made it a little bit more clear that it's not all on Hurts. This play calling sucks. Whether it's Hurts, McKee, Brady back there.
Not only that, you see what happens if you have a guy like McKee who can't move much.
Yeah.
I mean, Hurts covers up a lot of the problems that this team ends up having because he can get out and move a little bit. I mean, McKee was –
They had the 1 3rd and 1 where McKee was running. He had 10 yards of open field right in front of him, and he still tried to rifle a pass in that he cannot make, and then it was 4th down.
Well, on that drive, they throw the ball to Granson, and then on 2nd down, it's an incomplete pass, and then again on 3rd down, he throws the pass to Dotson, incomplete. They got a punt. They go 3 and out. You get 6 yards on 1st down. You take a shot with – you can at least mix the run back in there and then, see what happens. So I thought that was a spot. This is what it goes back to. You're asking McKee to basically win the game for you. He asked him to throw the ball 40 times in the game. There's 3. Then there's 8 plays on the drive on their next drive, and it ends with incomplete, 7-yard pass, incomplete. He had the 16-yard pass to Dotson, which was a nice play. Incomplete, a -1 yard pass. They didn't run the ball once in the whole drive there, and they're only down a touchdown. It's not like you're down 2 scores and you got to start moving here. And then they punt the ball away, and then they get the ball back. It's 24-17. Now, that was the one where they turned the ball over on down. They had the guy open. Who was that, Granson? I think it was Granson, yeah.
It's so many irrelevant guys yesterday.
He throws the ball to Granson, incomplete. But Granson's open, and he doesn't get that. That was a 4th down and 3. But think about it. You're going for it on 4th down. On 3rd and 3, you can try to run the ball right there.
I feel like that's the MO of the NFL now. If you know you're going for it on 4th, you run it on 3rd to set up that 4th down.
Right, because now it's like, okay, 4th and 1. And now it just opens up. It was.
And the way Bigsby was running yesterday, he probably gets that 1st down.
Then on the 4th down, the drive after that, it's still 24-17. They have the ball at their own 28 with 53 seconds. You're in a tough spot. The first pass he throws to Covey, he throws it behind him. Now, I don't know, if he catches that ball.
It was a bad he threw a complete opposite side of where he was.
Well, that's what I was saying to you guys earlier in the show, which is that play was one of many plays where it was obvious that McKee and the receivers were not on the same page, and this goes back to an issue the offense has had all year where the quarterback thinks the receiver – remember the whole, on Hard Knocks? Devontae, I thought I was going to go slant, and Jalen Hurts I thought you're going to come back. Tanner McKee was having the same problem yesterday, which is why I said it in the first hour, and I'm glad you brought it up again, Alex, which is this offense is a problem the way Kevin Matula is calling it, and Jalen Hurts has been vindicated by Tanner McKee basically making the same mistakes that Hurts has made.
I actually think that specific play, the Covey play, he just missed him. I don't think there was any, Covey
thought he was going to go out, and he threw it like he was going up.
How many times has, McKee and Covey connected in practice? Probably none.
Well, they're actually probably practicing more together because Covey is on the scout team.
Maybe.
Covey got tackled weird and started grabbing his leg, and I was like, great. Now who are we going to put back there?
Well, he got whacked in the Buffalo game, and I'm surprised he came back in.
I don't know if you guys remember Ross Tucker mentioned on the broadcast yesterday about how, when it comes to guys like Darius Cooper and guys like that those are the guys that McKee is usually practicing with. He's not
I know. Well,
practicing
yeah.
with the first
I
team.
thought because of that him and Cooper would have been on the same page, and I thought Cooper would have had a game yesterday.
Weakest taunting penalty I've ever seen. I hate the taunting rule. He didn't do anything. He made a good play. If you didn't want him to showboat, stop him.
You know what the taunting penalty reminds me of? It reminds me of those Progressive commercials where the guy who's like mentoring the new homeowners saying nobody cares. Like when the guy's asking the dumb questions of people in like the coffee house and stuff. It's like that. That's
I thought that was a
penalty
weak sauce. I definitely thought that was a weak sauce taunting penalty. But but here's the thing, Cooper. There's not one person that cares that you spun the ball in that guy's face.
Exactly.
So I don't need to see that. I don't care. You caught the ball and you got up and you spun. I don't care. I'm not like, yeah, our guy spun it in that guy's face. It's unnecessary. And the fact that these officials in the league is so petty that that's a penalty. Stupid. But that was a big play.
Because then that was the interception drive.
Really quick, what is more petty? Is it calling dumb taunting penalties, or is it the Magic Suggs getting potentially penalized for having a headband around his neck?
I think the taunting, because the NBA could at least somehow put it into a injury risk. I feel like on a neckband, that should be a headband. I don't know. Someone grabs
like a
it.
reach, but okay.
I'm pulling at strings here.
Right, you're trying.
But,
I give you credit for trying.
Yeah, I'm making an argument for one side. I just hate the taunting.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You haven't seen that with Jalen Suggs? He was a good example of it.
So Jalen Suggs, he starts every game with his headband on his neck. And he says that as the game, he starts feeling the flow of the game. Then when he feels the flow of the game, he moves the headband from his neck to his head.
That's kind of stupid.
And the NBA is saying, no, the headband has to be on your head when the ball tips off or you will be penalized.
I think it's a dumb statement by him to say, oh, when I feel in my flow, I move it up. What's it, progressively goes higher? It's on his nose at one point? Come on, dude. Shut up.
It's petty by the NBA to penalize him for that, one. And two, it does make a lot of sense.
Jalen's.
Both sides are wrong. This is
What you think about the Cooper, that play, you said was the Eagles was the interception drive.
Yeah.
He ends up throwing. But the Eagles got the interception to give them the ball back.
Correct.
Washington wanted to give us that game.
Right. You had the ball on the 24-yard line.
Poor
The game's right there, and you have a chance to go up. Instead, you're down. What was the score at halftime? What was the score at halftime in the game 2 weeks ago down in Washington? 10-7.
It was the exact
same score.
Exactly. So you have a chance to take the lead. Instead, you're down at 10-7 because of that bonehead play. You end up throwing an interception.
Poor Jalen Hunt, another great game just goes to waste.
I love Jalen Hunt. I've been a believer in him. But, yeah, they wanted to give you that game with the amount of the fumble that Johnson had where he just missed the ball. And then every play was a false start for Washington, especially that Ben Sinnott guy, the tight end.
Right tackle, the tight end on the right side.
Every play was a false start.
It was a yo-yo. I kept saying this. I was like, this is a yo. They're on the one, they go back 5 yards. Then they're right back to the one again. I mean, it was just bang, back and forth. But overall, very frustrating day, the fact that you had it right there. However, that said, I still think the Eagles made the right decision.
Yeah, because when we have all of our guys and some of these teams and they're going to be beaten up, Sirianni's going to be laughing.
609-403-0973. Text board's open. When we come back, it's the unsportsmanlike moment of the day. We'll read off more of your texts before the top of the hour. Stick around. 97.3 ESPN.
The wait is over.
Touchdown!
The quest for the Lombardi returns to South Philly. It's the wild card round as the number 3 seeded Eagles host the 6 seeded San Francisco 49ers at the Linc. Don't miss a single snap with the legends, Merrill Reese and Mike Quick, calling all the exciting playoff action.
Here comes the rush. They've got him!
Coverage begins this Sunday with the pregame at 3 p.m., followed by kickoff at 4:30. The playoffs live here. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles playoff station.
Go to get your game on at the Fanatics Sportsbook in the gallery at Ocean Casino Resort. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go where fans become fanatics at the Fanatics Sportsbook in the gallery. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Well, try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
McKee standing in the gun. Slot to either side. 3rd and 7. McKee back. He's looking. He fires. Complete. Touchdown! Calcaterra.
Right on the numbers.
Merrill Reese with the call right here on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles do lose the regular season finale. They fell to Washington 24-17. That touchdown pass from Tanner McKee, who started for the rested Jalen Hurts. He also had an interception. And Tank Bigsby scored a rushing touchdown for the Eagles, who now head to the postseason at 11-6. They'll host San Francisco in the wild card round on Sunday. The Flyers hosting the Anaheim Ducks Tuesday night, returning from their 5-game road trip. Philadelphia beat Edmonton Saturday by a 5-2 score and have now won 4 of their last 6 games. Sixers home tonight hosting Denver. Philadelphia has won 3 straight. They beat the Knicks on Saturday at the Garden. Denver playing without 3-time MVP Nikola Jokic, who is out with a knee injury. Catch tonight's game at 8:30 right here on 97.3 ESPN. The sports update brought to you by Progressive. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
We have the perfect solution for sitting in traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
The Philadelphia Eagles should beat either of these two teams that they hypothetically could have played. And I think that while Nick Sirianni can never utter those words out loud because that's insanely cocky and it's bulletin board. Guys, come on. I'm going to worry about this. We would beat either of these teams. No, you may not. That's what he's telling you, is that I needed to give my guys a bye because we will play more football than anyone. I needed to give them a bye. We didn't earn a bye, and I don't care about who we play first. That's what he's telling you. And that's what he should act like. No one should scare you.
That's Evan Cohen on Unsportsmanlike. It's our Unsportsmanlike moment of the day, brought to you by Whitehorse RV Center. Find fall closeout savings on 2025s and select pre-owned RVs. Shop now before they're gone. Whitehorse RV, your RV adventure starts here. You know, we always talk about Nick Sirianni. He is like captain competitive advantage, right? Everything he does is like competitive advantage. He is so petty all the time. And I agree with Evan Cohen here. I think Sirianni and the Eagles organization, don't discount Howie Roseman's role in this decision either. I think they looked at it and said, we're better than the Bears are. I know the Bears came here and beat us. We're banged up. It was Black Friday, short week for us. We had, yada, yada, yada. If we play that team again, I think we're better than them. And I think that's what the Eagles, they are. The word that Evan Cohen used was cocky. They think they're better than the Bears. And if we have to play them in Chicago, so be it. And we think we're better than Green Bay. And if Green Bay beats Chicago and Green Bay goes to Seattle, we think we can beat the Rams here as well. I think they looked at it and said, you know what? I don't mind being the 3 seed. We would rather be the 3 seed with a little extra energy for this 4-week jaunt that we're about to go on. And the Bears, they got beat up yesterday. San Francisco, how many linebackers? We just saw their injury situation. They had 3 linebackers now that left. 2 of them left the game yesterday. They're beat up a little bit, and they got beat up on Saturday night. They got just absolutely the ball run down their throats against Seattle. So now they're banged up, and they got to travel across the country now to play Philadelphia. Look, they could come here and be full of energy and beat you. Who the heck knows? And then the decision. But I think Philadelphia looked at it and said, listen, if we're healthy, basically coming off of a bye week, we feel like we are better than the teams that we're facing. So I think what Evan Cohen said there is probably not too far off, that the Eagles just think that they're – and he used the word cocky, right? He said they are cocky enough to think that they are just better. And I don't know that I disagree with him.
I agree with him, and I completely agree with Nuggets. The only team I fear, AFC, NFC side, I don't really care, is the Eagles. As long as they don't, crap their pants.
I don't think there is a clear-cut number 1 team that is just head and shoulders like better than anybody. I think everybody has a flaw. Everybody is pretty in the there's like 7 teams that are all in the same boat here.
So if we have to say right now the Super Bowl winner is going to come from the AFC or NFC?
Oh, man, I know Terrell's back there. He's a Bronco fan. They're the 1 seed, but, man, their offense is like the Eagles. They just don't score more than 20 points in a game.
But they turn it up somehow in the 4th. That's where I think Carolina can get sneaky. I'm not saying they're going to make a run or anything like that, but Bryce Young has the most comeback wins in the NFL.
That's also – I'm sorry, Alex, go ahead.
I was going to say, as long as they can keep it close against the Rams, there could be some noise to be made.
I was going to say it's a valid point because last year the Eagles were the best second-half team in the NFL. So if you're a good second-half team, you probably have a good chance at
Well, the reason they were the best second-half team of the NFL is because they wore you down in the run game in the first half, and then they would break a long one with Saquon. They haven't had that all season.
They also made great second-half adjustments last year. They were a team that said, hey, this ain't working in the first half. Let's do something else. And they were great at it, both offensively and defensively. This year, the offense just says, hey, it's not working. Let's do it again.
But, you talk about Denver. Philly had Denver here in Philadelphia. They had a 2-score lead in the 4th quarter. And their defense, which is what their bread and butter is, could not hold that game. I mean, that's a game you look back at. The Eagles should have won that game against Denver. I mean, realistically, you got to win that game. You're at home. You've got to figure out a way that your defense says, look, our offense gave us an opportunity to have a 2-score lead in the 4th quarter at home, and they couldn't get the job done against them. But Denver's the number 1 seed right now, but I think you got to feel like, hey, we're on the same level as them. New England's interesting. New England they haven't had a real quality win all season long. I don't know how much stock you put into that. Like, did they beat up a really lame schedule?
I compare them to the OKC Thunder the year before they won the championship. They were the 1 seed going into the playoffs. A lot of hype, but everyone knew they were too young. They weren't, built to just win it yet. I think the Patriots could be a little bit of that. Drake May, let him get a playoff run under him, and then in the future, there could be something.
Well, that team is definitely interesting because of May being, he played an MVP season here. So you're talking about an MVP candidate, which, most times these new kids on the block teams don't generally have. They, like Chicago, Caleb Williams didn't have an MVP season. He's probably one of the reasons why you don't believe in them, right? If you say, why don't I believe in the Bears? The Caleb Williams, I don't trust him in a big moment. Do you trust Drake May in a big moment? Well, yet to be seen, right?
This is why I had the future bet Bills and Birds as the Super Bowl, because I figured, Kansas City was going to taper off. Now, I didn't see this coming, how bad it ended up being for Kansas City. But look, for Josh Allen, he's going into Jacksonville. Very winnable game. No Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow, no
That's another
Patrick
one.
Mahomes.
Jacksonville. You're looking at what teams? Like the top 3 seeds in the AFC are all new kids on the block.
That's why the Bills, it might be set up for them. Josh Allen's got the most experience, and the one guy who's been taking him out every year, nowhere to be found now.
Yeah, Mahomes is nowhere to be found. By the way, Denver is averaging 12.2 points per game in the second half of games. The Eagles are averaging 9.9. So it's a 3-point difference between the Eagles and the Broncos. The Eagles last year used to average over 15 points a game in the second half, which is best in the NFL.
Think about this. I was trying to think of this yesterday. If you rank the quarterbacks by conference, the NFC side, it's either Jalen Hurts or Matthew Stafford as your number 1. The other guy's number 2. I don't even know who your number 3 guy would be. Who are you going with as the third quarterback on the NFC side? Darnold, Purdy, Williams, Young, Love.
I definitely go Purdy as number 3.
See, I like Caleb Williams. I think he can either win you a game with a drive or just lose the game for you.
That's why he's not my number 3, because at least Purdy, I know, the majority of his career, he has not been a guy that loses you games.
And then on the AFC side, you got Josh Allen. Who would you put number 2?
Drake May has to be, I think.
Right, but
Trevor Lawrence is smoking hot right now, though. I mean, that
Drake
guy
May
is on fire
number
for last
2,
month.
I agree, but a complete unknown in the playoffs.
True.
So you have a guy with no playoff history as the second guy. I would say Josh Allen, Drake May. You want to go Trevor Lawrence 3? He has a little bit of playoff experience.
But also, he's been absolutely smoking hot the last several weeks. Like, he has found a groove, and him and that offense is just firing on all cylinders.
You got Aaron Rodgers. You got
DK Metcalf playing is the question.
Bo Nix, right? I mean, that AFC side, man, the quarterback field over there
Did
is
you guys
definitely
see
lighter.
Did you guys see Aaron Rodgers post game last night?
Maybe. I don't know what you're referring to.
So he was asked about the Calvin Austin touchdown, and he explains that apparently he kept asking Calvin Austin the entire game, what is he like? And Calvin Austin wouldn't give him a straight answer. And he said, Calvin's too nice of a guy that took one of the offensive linemen to tell Calvin Austin, just run a go route. And then Rodgers was like, yeah, run a go route. And that's how they scored a touchdown.
Well, and that game was so poorly mismanaged by Pittsburgh, too. I mean, they had to call every timeout. He had to change his helmet. How many times
the whole situation,
yesterday?
the helmet wasn't working. That was a disaster.
All right, 609-403-0973. When we come back, we'll rip through as many texts as we can to the top of the hour. That's here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers Nuggets tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Rises for 3, it's in the air. Rimming no Embiid with the rebound. He puts it back up. It's good, and he's fouled. Joel Embiid is back. He puts it in.
It's Sixers basketball tonight. Coverage begins at 8:30 on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia 76ers basketball. 97.3 ESPN.
All right, welcome back. Sports Pass Live, 97.3 ESPN. Yeah, Mike Gill back with you. Alex Berardis, my on-site producer today. Josh Henning is back at the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. All right, we got a lot of text messages today. A lot of people voicing their opinion on what the Eagles' decision was yesterday. What do you guys think out there? 609-403-0973. I don't know. I mean, you got the text board back there. Has it been split, or is it like heavy one way?
It's a little split just because it feels like some of the people still feel like if you had the shot to go for the 2 seed, you should have done it no matter what. Other people are saying that, they should have won anyway. So maybe it's more like a 33-33-33 kind of deal.
I feel like they should have won the game yesterday, even with the backups playing. I'm more disappointed that they weren't able to figure out a way to win that game with the backups playing. Like they had that game. It's 17-17 in the fourth quarter of the game. Now you'd say, well, if your starters are playing, you would have won the game. Well, think about it. Calcaterra got hurt. I don't need Goddard getting hurt. Toth got hurt. I don't need Landon Dickerson getting hurt. And then Brandon Johnson, the safety, got hurt. I don't need Reed Blankenship getting hurt. I don't need any of these guys. Look at that secondary yesterday. Could you imagine what would have happened, say, Quinyon Mitchell got hurt in that game yesterday?
Well, and that's part of what some of the texts are saying. People like Ray and EHT are with you at 609-403-0973. They says, after what I saw this weekend, I am a fan of resting the starters because now you're playing a San Francisco team that seems to be having issues with their own health. He also goes on to say he hated the taunting penalty. He felt like the flag was thrown on Cooper or Alex Pierce in the Colts game yesterday.
By the way, the Niner linebacker Tatum Bethune is out for the whole playoffs. He tore his groin yesterday.
Yep.
He is out for the rest of the playoffs, meaning that veteran Eric Hendricks will become the fourth different starting linebacker for them. Fred Warner is already hurt. Bethune is out, and Curtis Robinson also got hurt. So you're under their fourth linebacker in the game here. This is a team that was banged up all season long, San Francisco, and they lost another guy. He's not the only guy. The linebacking situation for the Niners, starting weak side linebacker D. Winters, he hurt his ankle in the game on Saturday night.
Yep.
Then the backup, Luke Gifford, he has a quad injury, so they're basically down to like their sixth and seventh different linebackers. Those guys, Winters, Gifford, and Bethune, they all got hurt in the game on Saturday night.
Listen, I think it just goes to show you that Sirianni, whether you liked playing the starters or not, he was vindicated by the injuries, if anything else.
Right, well, and then, so right now, if the game was to be tomorrow, Winters and Gifford would be unavailable. They would be starting Grant Wallow, who they claimed off waivers from Denver on December the 8th. He would be their starting linebacker in the game. Nick Martin, one of their draft picks this year, he cannot play in the game because he's on the IR, so he has to sit for at least one more week. Now, also on the San Francisco injury report, Brock Purdy, I don't know if you saw this, late in the game, he threw a pass and his hand hit the helmet of somebody. Now, they said he should be okay, but those are the type of things, you hit a helmet like that, and those things linger possibly. And then Trent Williams and Ricky Pearsall, who obviously they're going to be evaluated as the week goes on. Neither one of those guys played in the game the other day, so they are banged up as well.
So even if I was just going to say, even if those guys are playing, nowhere near 100% for any of them.
San Francisco has been banged up all season long. They
Correct.
just seemingly never got themselves healthy.
I was going to say, and even with the backups San Francisco has, they let Purdy get beat up in the game. So it was a rough watch. I mean, Pleasance was not pleasant to his quarterback.
That game was a physical beating that San Francisco. Seattle whipped them. They beat them up and down the field.
Some more text to get to is 609-403-0970. Joe in EHT chimes in, Mike. He says, how about not going for it on fourth down and going for the field goal in the first quarter? You know that Detroit had an opportunity to win. Every point counts. Instead, you run the same dumb play that didn't work with the backups that you run with the starters. That's Joe in EHT.
Again, I go back, and I think, Joe, I go back to I thought the Eagles had a chance to win that game if it was managed better.
Managed better, you mean by the play calling?
Yeah, just if Patullo managed a better game, Mosher kind of disagreed with me, but the game's 17-17. They didn't run the ball one time the rest of the way. I mean, even 24-17, you're not down 2 scores with 6 minutes left where you have to go chucking the ball all over the yard. It's a 1-score game. Like, you can mix in your offense. I didn't agree with Moshe on that one.
Do you think that Mosher's perspective is that, you have to call the game a certain way because you've been doing a certain way all year?
Well, he was saying, because I said, look, he asked McKee to throw 40 passes in the game.
Right.
And he was like, well, I think it was more like you're losing in the fourth quarter. Yeah, but you're only down 1 score. And they threw a pass on first down, completed it to Granson. So now it's 2nd down and 4.
Right, you could have run the ball there.
You could have run the ball on 2nd and 4. Maybe you get 2 yards. Maybe you get 3 yards. Who knows? Maybe you get a first down. Then they got the ball a little bit later on in the drive. They had an 8-play drive. They didn't run the ball once in that drive. They're only down 1 score in the game. It's not a 2-score game. I thought they just put way too much in the hands of McKee. In the fourth quarter of that game, you're down 1 score, and you're saying to McKee, throw us to victory here. I thought that was a problem.
Yeah, it's so backwards for them because I feel like before that it would just be first down, run up the middle, nothing. 2nd down, run up the middle, nothing. 3rd down, deep shot downfield to A.J. Brown. It's like when the running's not working, they try to stick with the run game. The running game was working. Bigsby was getting yards, and then they just completely abandoned it.
By the way, Seattle on Saturday night, 39 carries for 180 yards. Pretty physical. I mean, they ran the ball right at San Francisco. The question will be, can Philadelphia have similar success on the ground? Now, they ran the ball. Kenneth Walker, 16 carries for 97. Jack Charbonnet, 17 carries for 74 yards. They had a pretty much split right down the middle for the 2 backs.
But again, it goes back to, are they willing to do it? Can you? Yes. Will you? That's the story.
Can the Eagles? We don't know. We don't know if their offensive line is capable of dominating the game. And, by the way, the Seattle offensive line is not great.
Well, that's my point. If Seattle can do it, why can't we?
They have good play designs, know when to set up a run.
Some of it's also 1-2. Like, I feel like sometimes, like, you listen to guys like, the Orlovskis and the Baldingers, like the guys who review the tape, they say the Eagles are letting the other team dictate the point of attack on them at times. To me, that's a 1-2. That's a, someone's got to get these guys to get back to being aggressive.
Well, the offensive line has been certainly a big problem in why they have not had a consistent run game. So that does handcuff the play caller where he says, look, our offensive line, we're just not running the ball successfully, so therefore I can't trust that I can get 3 yards here or 4 yards here. Now, the other night or 2 weeks ago, he says we run the ball just to run the ball sometimes.
That was horrible. we played that audio last week. It was just such a poor thing to say.
Right, and I guess his reason is, look, sometimes we run the ball just to run it, and it's like, well, your offensive line has just not been there for you all season long, and that's the problem. Is this team has depended on that part of the offense the entire Sirianni era here. The team has depended on the run game, which hasn't been there for them this year.
Let's read a couple more texts here. 609-403-0973. Shaner and Kate May says, sit him or don't. It was a poorly coached game all around. They also dropped Tanner back 40 times, which was bad. 3rd and 1. Why are they pushing instead? We run it and then punt. 2 examples on many more of poor coaching, says Shaner and Kate May.
Well, listen, as we just kind of hinted at, their offensive line, yesterday especially, I mean, you have the backup entire offensive line out there. And they ran the ball better yesterday than they have had all season long.
That's why I want to see this 1-2 punch between Bigsby and Saquon. Let these 2 guys tire out the defense and keep them both fresher than they would be.
All right, coming up next hour, Grayson's grade. Scott Grayson grades the Eagles' loss. What did he grade the coaching decision? We'll get into that coming up on the other side. Plus more of your text messages tonight at 5:30. We'll read off more. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. More Sports Bash on the way.
The wait is over. The quest for the Lombardi returns to South Philly. It's the wild card round as the number 3 seeded Eagles host the 6 seeded San Francisco 49ers at the Linc. Don't miss a single snap with the legends, Merrill Reese and Mike Quick, calling all the exciting playoff action.
Here comes the rush. They've got him!
Coverage begins this Sunday with the pregame at 3 p.m., followed by kickoff at 4:30. The playoffs live here. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles playoff station. home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They've got him. It's a sack.
Sixers.
Oh, baby.
And Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
All right, final hour of the show. What's going on, everybody? Sports Bass Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. At Mike Gill Show. Be a part of the show. We got a lot of text messages to read off still in the next segment, but right now it's time for Grayson's Grades. And, of course, Grayson's Grades are brought to you by the Bridgeton Auto Mart. Are you ready to score your next big drive? Head straight for the end zone at Bridgeton Auto Mall. Scott Grayson, Fox 29. And, of course, Grayson's Grades after every Eagles game at 97.3 ESPN.com. Now, I have not looked at your grades at all. I'm going to, do this on the fly. I want to see how you kind of graded this game last night. And, of course, the Eagles make this decision to not play their starters. So how would you grade that decision, Scott Grayson? Did you agree with the way that they handled it? Your mic is muted there. There we go.
If you look under the grades, you'll see an A for Nick Sirianni, Mike, because I agreed with the decision to rest those guys. As I watched games over the weekend and teams that had starters in there, some injuries. There were some bumps and bruises. I mean, you look at the Bears, I saw DJ Moore limp off the field at one point. And you remember back a few years when the Eagles lost A.J. Brown going into a playoff game against the Bucs. As Nick said, I don't always agree with what he says, but as he said in this case, the only thing I could guarantee was rest. I couldn't guarantee, that the Lions were going to beat the Bears. And to his point, all the people who were upset, ask yourself right now, if the way that game went out and the way it was playing out, the Lions up front and the Bears came back, if it was the Bears kicking a field goal that won it at the last second, how would you have felt if one of the Eagles' offensive linemen left the game, if there was a concussion that happened? I think the Eagles going in healthy, to me, the biggest fear that you should have as the Eagles fan is that the Eagles beat themselves, because that's pretty much the way we've seen them lose games this season. They're their own worst enemy. And so I go into this saying, go ahead and give me a healthy offensive line. Give me, a bunch of healthy players around that team on offense and defense, and let's see what they can do.
Right, so you said it might be an unpopular opinion, but you did give an A to Nick Sirianni for the way that they handled this game yesterday, which was, not playing the starters. Now, they did play Devontae Smith. You saw Jordan Davis. You saw Brandon Graham. You saw Jalen Hunt. You saw some guys did play. Do you think that they maybe could have played a half, see what happens, or would you just say, nope, they played it the right way?
No, I think they did play it the right way, because, a half – look, and I listen, I hear the people who might say, well, they played Devontae Smith. They gave him 3 catches. The whole game plan you could see from the moment he was out there was just get him the ball and get him off the field. If he was any further away, if it was over 50 yards or something like that he needed, I don't know that he would have played there. It was close enough that they could just get it done and get him off the field. And I didn't have a problem with that to a certain extent. That, that's a player's coach, right? That's doing stuff for your guys. It wins you a little street cred in the locker room as a coach, and I'm okay with that. But you can't sit everybody.
Don't you think if A.J. Brown was the guy that's playing for 1,000 yards, that he's getting some heat of all you care about is the numbers? And here it's Devontae Smith is the one that's out there. Does anybody really care that Devontae Smith got 1,000 yards? It's 1,000 yards anymore in a 17-game season is almost like, all right, dude, did you really need to go out there for that? I mean, cool, he got it, but, it did. I thought it was a bad look that they played him.
Listen, it's for the bonus, right? I mean, you get an incentive out of it, and it's getting a guy to a certain spot where you can get a little incentive, and I think that's what some of the guys react to. It helps those players who might look at that. I mean, listen, free agents see that kind of stuff. Players talk, right? And that kind of thing may resonate at some point in a positive way on getting a guy to come to Philadelphia as a free agent down the road. Again, like I said, if it was much further than that, then I don't think he plays. And look, make no mistake, this was not just a Nick Sirianni decision. This was a front office decision as well, whether to play Devontae Smith, and the whole idea to sit the rest of those guys and go with rest. Somewhere somebody came at them with a bunch of analytics that says, hey, teams that go into the playoffs with rest do this, whereas teams who fight for a seed have this happen. And I think that's where the front office and Nick Sirianni made the decisions they did, including to let Devontae Smith go after that incentive.
Yeah, I said to, Scott, I said I was actually more frustrated by the way they managed the game yesterday with who they had. I mean, Tanner McKee getting 40, he threw the ball 40 times yesterday. It's like, yo, you weren't down 2 scores, and I need you to chuck me back in the game. I thought the fact that they asked this kid to go basically win the game for them, I had more problems with that.
Well, I've been asking myself, what were they trying to do? And I think the more I've come to it, the more I'm kind of getting around this thought that it almost looked like they were trying to showcase McKee, give him all those passing opportunities to try to maybe get some sort of a higher draft pick for him if they were to move him. And it flat out didn't work. I mean, the 2 seed was there, and you kind of knew it by being able to look at the scoreboard. I completely agree with you. I have a bigger problem with how they managed the game than I did about who played, because that game was there for the backups to win. Tank Bigsby was doing well. I don't know why you stopped running him. I get it. On defense, I think to a certain extent that, they, even though it was backups, they didn't want to put scheme out there. They kept it a basic defense, but, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, but real problem with the way some of those defensive backs played. What have you been doing all season on scout team and everything? Like, you don't understand to turn around and face the ball? How much, all the free yardage that was given up on penalties, pass interference? I mean, Keely Ringo, you were doing. Letting him go run into the end zone is like.
Watching the secondary was a vote for not playing the starters, because if one of those starters got hurt, and I had to watch Keely Ringo play extended minutes in a playoff game. But, you mentioned Bigsby, and I think you gave him an A. He had a carry for 13 yards in the third quarter. He didn't get a touch the rest of the game. And that's what I said. You gave McKee, I think, a D, right?
Gave Tanner McKee. I thought he missed guys. He had open receivers and he missed them. And all those people who wanted to say, well, it's the way Jalen Hurts ran the offense. Well, McKee now did it too. So all those people who wanted to say, hey, Tanner McKee, should be a starter and over Jalen Hurts. Well, Tanner had a shot, and I like Tanner McKee. I really do. And if Jalen goes down, I have confidence in Tanner McKee. And I will say this. He had to do it with the whole backups out there. It wasn't like he had A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith he was throwing to. And, oh, by the way, when he did have Devontae Smith that he threw to, looked pretty good. But you give him the top offensive line out there, I think he probably plays a little better. But the bottom line, they had the shot at the 2. They didn't get it. They go into this thing healthy. You got the 3. I don't trust that the Bears and the Seahawks are going to get to the NFC Championship game. I think the Eagles still have a chance to host the NFC Championship game, assuming they can get this thing going.
Well, this has been the big problem. You take a look at Grayson's grades, by the way. Scott Grayson from 97.3 ESPN.com, Fox 29. You got on the offensive side of the ball here, Dotson with a B. You talked about Devontae Smith. He came out, made a couple plays. Tank Bigsby. But Kevin Patullo sitting there in the middle with a C, and I'm actually surprised you gave him as good as a grade as he got, because at this point, do we look at Patullo and say we could trust him in a playoff game to design and come up with a good game plan?
Yeah, I think I'm talking myself into a little bit of the Eagles have been playing a little possum. I got to believe that it can't be this bad, right? It can't be this basic where they were doing, and I'm taking this last game out of the mix, because this was a bunch of backups. But you look at it and you say, how could he call a game that, I couldn't call a game that bad on Madden if I tried, but he's doing it here with these guys on this roster. And I believe there's just parts of the playbook that they've kind of put under wraps. And now that we get into the playoffs, they're going to start showing stuff. And again, at the end of the season, we might say, well, look, they were playing checkers when everybody was playing chess. Patullo wasn't that bad. It was just he was keeping stuff under wraps so that they could come out.
I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case, that he comes out and says, all right, I got all this now at my disposal that I didn't have. I can call a couple quarterback draws and quarterback runs and design quarterbacks. If that's added to the offense, so be it. That's great. But what we've seen right now through 17 weeks. Now, I had some people say, the offense didn't deserve the week off. I think, if anything, that's the one thing they did deserve. You don't deserve to play anymore. You showed us 17 weeks that you're not good enough. You don't get one more chance.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, when you look at it and you see this offense and you say, okay, Lane Johnson's going to be back. We know their record is a lot better when he's in the lineup. What does that do? Well, that gives you the extra offensive lineman when you bring Fred Johnson out there. We haven't seen that formation in 6 weeks since Lane Johnson was out there. So there is some stuff that's going to look fresh. You're going to have, a healthier Saquon Barkley. I think Jordan Mailata he's been playing better. I think he needed the break. I think Landon Dickerson's going to come out and play better on that offensive line. The one that I think really has to play better is Cam Jurgens, and I'll be curious to see how much the week off helped him on that offensive line. But, yeah, I think you look at this offense, and I think it is on Kevin Mitchell. I think they will take some of the leash off of Jalen Hurts and let him run more and instruct him. When you have a chance to go get some yardage, just go do it and do it wisely. Get down or get out of bounds. But I think that's a certain aspect of this offense we haven't seen. It will help if it gets to that point where he does more of that. And I think this first matchup that the Eagles do have a really good shot at winning this and moving on.
Talking with Scott Grayson, our Grayson's Grades right now here on the Sports Bash, brought to you by the Bridgeton Auto Mall. And, you take a look at, you grade the defense now. You take a look at, they did play some regulars on defense. You had Jalix Hunt out there. You had, Campbell is a regular. He doesn't, I guess, when Dean's back, I guess he kind of gets a lot of the starts here. But were you disappointed that defense, even with the backups, couldn't find a way to beat Josh Johnson?
The one thing that I think surprised me was that they had no sacks. I don't know how you don't get to Josh Johnson and sack him. I don't care who you are as a backup out there. You should be able to get there to him at some point. There were some opportunities. They did get to the backfield. They couldn't get him down. They couldn't wrap him up. They couldn't get, maybe they cut left when they should have gone right. There were some opportunities, and that was disappointing that they weren't able to get that kind of pressure on him to bring him down, or really to get him to force more turnovers. I mean, he threw the one where he was on his back foot, floated it out there that his son got. It was a bad snap that that he kind of took his eye off of, that they were able to get a fumble recovery off of. Other than that, they didn't really force Josh Johnson into making too many mistakes. And again, they bailed him out with all these penalties, 9 penalties for 123 yards.
And I'm looking at the grades. You gave Ringo an F. I'm surprised you didn't put Bennett in there. I mean, he had a rough day at the office.
McWilliams I threw in there. Bennett, I could have thrown in him as well. All of them out there just looked like they hadn't really played defensive back, in like a year. I mean, it was awful. It again made me wonder what they're not working on instructing those guys or teaching them anything, because you didn't see any good habits out there that I would have said, oh, look, Vic Fangio's telling these guys to work on this or work on that. They were all just unilaterally bad out there. And that's one thing, I guess, if you learned anything yesterday, it said, man, we can't afford to see Quinyon Mitchell get hurt or anybody else in that secondary, because the next man up might not be so good.
All right, so grade this matchup in terms of the play San Francisco. Did you have a preference here?
I wanted the Eagles to get the 2. I just felt like Green Bay was more there for the taking. But I have since shifted a little bit, Mike, and I like this matchup for this reason. As the 3, you get the Niners as the 6. And the Niners really sold out to try to win that game over the Seahawks, as they should. They could have had the 1 seed, a first-round bye. They got a little banged up in that process. And I think what we saw was a really good defense make the Niners look really bad. And what do the Eagles have? A really good defense. I think the Seahawks laid out a little bit of a blueprint for Vic Fangio to follow, and they can make the Niners look pretty bad. If that's the case, you don't need your offense to really go out and light the world on fire. So I think the Niners are ripe for the taking. They got to come cross country. They are going to be a little banged up after playing last week, while the Eagles are rested. The Packers rested last week. I wouldn't be surprised to see them possibly knock off the Bears. I think they're going to be a little healthier than the Bears, who sold out to make sure they got that 2 seed. It's an interest, and it will really, in hindsight, let us take a look at this argument a little further. What's better, the rest or pursuing a higher seed?
That's a good point you bring up there. The Bears did play to win yesterday. Obviously, they lost. The Packers, they rested everybody. So now the Packers are saying, we're rested. We're going to take our best shot at you after you just played and got beat up and lost the game. And by the way, the Bears have now lost 2 straight and really could have been 3 straight had they not recovered an onside kick. You'd be looking at a Bears team that would be going into the playoffs with a 3-game losing streak here. But obviously they get the 2. Philadelphia gets the 3. They'll play the 49ers. And, of course, you can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Grayson's grades. He'll grade the playoff game. Ringo, F. McWilliams, D. McKee, D. Patullo, C. Dotson, a B. Campbell, by the way, Jeremiah Trotter started the game last year against the Giants. I think he had like 15 tackles in that game. And then yesterday, what do you have, 12 tackles? That kid can actually play if he was given. The Eagles have the best group of linebackers maybe in the league.
And how many years did we sit here saying they don't have one? It is crazy.
But
I
Trotter,
love Trotter.
Trotter, he had that play on the goal line. He stood the running back up and pushed. Trotter has a nose for the ball, and he can play. It's a shame there's not an opportunity for him here.
I felt really bad for Trotter and the rest of the guys on defense who it was 3rd down and goal when Josh Johnson was able to waltz in because Keely Ringo decided to just give him the end zone. They were on the verge of making a great goal line stand, and all that went for naught because of Keely Ringo not knowing what he was doing out there. But yeah, I love Trotter. I love the energy he brings, and man, he hits hard too.
By the way, Jalen Hunt last year in the playoffs, that's when he picked his game up. Are we seeing him kind of start that, ascension right now? You talk about Jordan Davis. Jalen Carter didn't play this week, so he should be healthy enough and ready to go. This pass rush was a big factor for them in the playoff run last year. Can they get that cranked up again in the playoff run? This year it's going to be key for them. All right, we're going to be all over it. Eagles, Niners, you can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, don't forget the Super Bowl this year in San Francisco. The Niners had it right there for them. They had a chance to get home field all the way through the Super Bowl and couldn't get anything going on Saturday night. And now they'll have to come across the country and play Philadelphia here at Lincoln Financial Field. Scott, we'll talk to you, man.
All right, you got it, Mike. Take care.
All right, Scott Grayson, Fox 29, and, of course, his grades are up after every Eagles game. And they're brought to you by the Bridgeton Auto Mall. Are you ready to score your next big drive? Head straight for the end zone at Bridgeton Auto Mall. All right, I'm Mike Hill. This is the Sports Bash. When we come back, your text messages from now to the end of the show. We will answer as many text messages on that game yesterday. If you want to talk about Sirianni and the Eagles' decision to bench guys, did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you understand it? Would you have played guys? They're going to play the Niners. You want to talk about that? 609-403-0973. Couple other quick things. Tyrese Maxey, Eastern Conference Player of the Month, 35 points a game. Sixers tonight, they take on the Nuggets. Sixers have won three straight road games, by the way. They're back home tonight. Phillies announced Don Mattingly as the new bench coach. Donnie Baseball is the new Phillies bench coach. And could that be a move that helps them land Bo Bichette? Read about Bo Bichette and his connection potentially to the Phillies on our website, 973ESPN.com. Your text messages, 609-403-0973. You guys take over the show. Coming up next.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
On 97.3 ESPN.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, live at the Fanatics Sportsbook. You know, if you're looking for a place to watch the games this weekend, Saturday, you got the first 2 games, and then on Sunday, you got a 3-pack. You can watch all the games right here at the Fanatics Sportsbook. And, of course, Monday night, you got a game as well, the Monday Night Football playoff game. All 3 of those games on Sunday right here at the Fanatics Sportsbook. Of course, we'll have the Eagles for you on 97.3 ESPN. You can listen to the game. Coverage starts at 3. Kickoff with Merrill Reese, Mike Quick at 4:30. It's finally here. The playoffs are back, and the Eagles make it back-to-back. The journey starts with the Niners. They could have been the 2 seed. They elected to sit the starters yesterday. All right, let's go to the text board and see what everybody thought throughout the day. We'll hit as many texts as we can between now and the end of the show. 609-403-0973.
Hey, Mike, Jim in Rio Grande, he chimes in and he says, do you guys think the Eagles are going to use Big B this week maybe to wear down the 49ers, considering the 49ers just played a tough game against Seattle? Do you think the game plan will be to wear them down, and maybe that's what they were holding back for so they could be fresh?
I mean, I wouldn't be no, I don't think Bigsby's going to get more than his normal, 2 to 3 carries. I don't think you're going to see an extended role for him based on, because he had a good game the other day. I don't think they're like, you know what? They know what Bigsby is, and one of the problems with him has been he has been a fumbler in his career with Jacksonville. He had a fumble problem. So I don't know that. I think one of the problems is that Philly doesn't trust him. But they also have Saquon Barkley. So I have said all season long, about halfway through the year, I said, look, Barkley just isn't the same. It's not the same this year. Whatever is different, the line, Barkley, whatever, just show something different. And I said, I don't need to see 15 Bigsby carries, 5 to 7, 7 to 9, something like that.
I'd like to see 2-back sets where you got Saquon on Jalen's right and Bigsby on Saquon's left or on Jalen Hurts' left. Just see what happens. Confuse the defense. Throw something at them that they haven't seen before, and just maybe something pops.
I also think, he had 1 catch yesterday for 31 yards, Tank. But I do think that they could utilize Shipley catching the ball out of the backfield a little bit more. That's not Barkley's strong suit. But maybe you can get those guys involved in ways and get them some touches out of the backfield. But I don't think, to answer Jim's question, no, I do not think that Bigsby all of a sudden is going to be a bigger part of the offense. But don't be surprised if Barkley's not a bigger part of the offense or has a big role on Sunday.
I mean, maybe it's about Bigsby, and maybe is it more maybe about they're saying, hey, we want to get the offensive line fresh so we can be more physical.
If you just watch Seattle, they ran the ball, 40 times?
Yep.
In the game against San Francisco. So what's to say that Philly says, okay, they lumped them up front, let's bang right back at them and go right back at them again up front.
George at Summers Point chimes says, hey, guys, do you think the Eagles should have gotten the primetime game Sunday night instead of the Patriots and the Chargers? That's from George Summers Point.
Generally, the 4:25 Sunday game is the highest rated game of the weekend.
I feel like that there's room for fireworks in that Patriots game. I feel like Eagles, 49ers, it might just be a sluggish, just kind of game.
But people don't realize that. The 4:25 Sunday afternoon game is generally the most viewed game of the weekend. So I think they're saying that the Eagle game is the best game of the weekend. I think that's it's not the primetime Sunday night football game, but the 4:25 game gets more viewers than the Sunday night football game.
Also, I was just going to say that, a lot of people don't always remember that, who you play has a lot to do with not just the matchup. So some of these matchups are being placed in the time slots they are depending on who the teams are involved. So there's probably a part of it, Mike. You and I have talked about this many times over the years about how, you want to keep the East Coast and the West Coast people engaged, and that's probably what led to the 4:25 as well.
I was surprised that they went with Green Bay, Chicago on the Amazon Prime game. That's a good game for Amazon Prime. I thought maybe they would get the Sunday night game and then the Green Bay.
Well, Sunday night's got to be NBC no matter what.
I know. I'm saying.
You mean that specific game? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought that was maybe the you got Green Bay and Chicago. You got a division rivalry. I thought maybe that would be your Sunday night game. And then, the Amazon Prime, I think they went out of their way to give Amazon Prime maybe the marquee matchup of the weekend.
Yeah, they gave him a bone. Good for them.
Chicago, Green Bay. I mean, you got Chicago, a huge market, second biggest market, third biggest market, I guess, and then Green Bay, which is kind of has like a national appeal. To put that game on Amazon Prime, that's I was a little surprised by that.
By the way, if I can ask you a question that me, Alex, and Pete had while you were gone, Mike, is that how do you feel about Al Michaels on Prime? Are you a thumbs up, a thumbs down? How do you feel about the man on Prime?
He's definitely losing some heat on the fastball, but he's still. I still like you hear Al Michaels call. It feels like a big game. I'm not the biggest Herb Street guy.
Some of his calls last night, like when that, or was that even Al Michaels on the call?
Tarico was last night.
Yeah, Tarico. I was just saying, Tarico did a great job. Sorry, Al, I tried to give him props.
I think that Tarico right now, Buck and Aikman are the best. When Buck and Aikman do the game, it feels like it's a big game.
It does.
Nance and Romo, I think. Herb Street to me is just not NFL. He just doesn't feel like an
Herb
NFL.
Street's probably the weakest of the NFL color guys, right?
Of the number one teams, yes.
Yeah, and then, see, my argument last week, Mike, was that, I feel like Al Michaels is kind of like a Greg Maddux at the end of his career where he might not have the fastball anymore, but he can still work the corners and get the strikeouts.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly not the same that he was. I mean, he's not the best anymore, but I've always been kind of an Al Michaels fan. That being said, I think Nance and Romo, you can make a strong argument that Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt have surpassed them.
I would agree. I think Romo has regressed tremendously. I think there are times that it almost feels like he's not listening to what Nance is saying. He's just kind of like, almost like, words are just coming out of his mouth, and sometimes just like he's so intent on saying something that like Nance might be describing like the previous play, but Romo is so intent on saying what he wants to say.
They just feel like two guys that don't get along or just aren't friendly, like they just work together. They don't like Romo makes jokes. I don't think Nance gets his sense of humor. Like they just don't.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Who did the Prime game between Houston and the Chargers?
Probably Al Michaels and her.
No, it was like some B tier squad. It was horrible. I forget who did it
On Prime?
It was a few weeks. It was week 17, I believe.
I mean, if it was on Prime, it had to be Michaels and Herb Street.
It
right?
wasn't their like main. No, because I like.
Are you
listening
sure
to
it was
them.
Prime or was it maybe something else?
Maybe it was
or
Peacock.
NFL Network. It was
Maybe
either.
it was
Might have been an
Peacock.
NFL Network game.
Oh, the NFL
Network. That's a terrible. I mean, that's
that's
Rich
always a
Eisen does those.
mishmash of
Yes,
whoever they
that's
can
what
find.
It was horrible.
Yeah, Rich Eisen does those games. He's not a play-by-play guy. I don't know why they have him do those games. It's usually him and Kurt Warner.
Yeah, it's usually those two. Goody and Galloway chimes in and says, "Happy New Year, guys. I wonder if the defense was so bland that even the backups had no clue what to do. I would think practicing all season with backups will look better in the Fangio scheme."
No, that's exactly the opposite. If you heard what they were talking about yesterday, Ross Tucker made the point of how difficult Vic Fangio's terminology is, and he said these guys don't play in it enough, and that's why they're struggling so much. I actually was talking about this last week. The Eagles' backups, didn't you feel better about the backup offense over the backup defense entering the game? I was like, I actually have more confidence in the Eagles' backup offense than I do the defense. Like, I couldn't name another safety. We were trying to figure out who the hell the safeties would be with Blankenship and Epps out. I never heard of Brandon Johnson before. I had no idea who that guy was.
I mean, they literally signed that guy a couple weeks ago, I think it was, to the practice squad.
So I felt better that the Eagles' second offense was better than their defense.
I mean, Jacorian Bennett just proved to you yesterday why
terrible.
he has not played
I got
all
to text
year.
Q Myers. Well, he's been hurt all year, to be fair.
Listen, I thought Ross Tucker also made a good point where he said, listen, I watched Jacorian Bennett all preseason. He's been handsy all year, and he's never cleaned it up.
Yeah, he did make the point that, but he and I said, to be fair, those guys don't play a whole heck of a lot to throw them out there in a situation like that. Don't expect, like, all-pro performances, but
No, but you expect them maybe a little bit better than that.
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You get called for multiple pass interferences. Can't happen.
Cole from LBI says, "Thank God my Jets season is over. That was rough. If you're doing a fine 5, ugly 5, my Jets got to be the ugliest, right, Mike Gill? Says Cole and RBI.
Nah, Raiders. I mean, Raiders are the worst team.
You know,
the Jets.
That stat, did you see it yesterday?
They didn't have one interception all year.
They're the first team in NFL history to never have an interception in a season.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't care about your Jets there. Sorry. Give me another one. I mean, let's filter these things out a little better. I don't care about the Jets.
Alex in Hamilton says Kevin Harlan, who called the game, is the absolute best, says Alex in Hamilton.
He's very good. Harlan's one of my favorites.
Also, what makes Harlan great is that he can make an okay game.
He was calling the Bears game in the middle of the Eagles game.
That was hilarious.
He called the game-winning field goal.
Mike, you said you had the split screen yesterday, right?
During that last drive, I went split screen.
So I had split screen, and when Harlan was calling some of those plays, he was calling it before it happened on the split screen for me.
Well, maybe there's a little delay.
There was definitely a delay, like a whole minute delay, it seemed like. Paul from Millville chimes in, says, hey, Mike, welcome back. I am going to continue saying this stat until I'm blue in the face. The Eagles under Sirianni are undefeated at home in the playoffs. They are winless on the road in the playoffs under Sirianni. If you have an ability to secure the second seed for an extra home game in the Linc with those stats, that's what you should do. Now you're playing a San Francisco team that is injured but also wants revenge, says Paul in Millville.
Revenge for what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2022.
That's a stretch. Look, the Eagles, maybe not under Sirianni, have not won a road game. Now, they don't play a lot of road games. They had home field advantage all the way throughout in the 1 year, but they went to Chicago in, 2019? And won that
the
game
2018 season, yeah.
Yeah, the double doink.
Double doink.
So I've seen them win a game in Chicago, different circumstances, different coaches, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I mean, look, you can look at they lost that game to the Giants this year. They lost that game at home against Denver this year. They had their chances to secure. The last week of the season, get your guys healthy and get ready for a long playoff run.
We got an interesting question from Mojo and EHT earlier at 609-403-0973. All the coaches who got canned today, who would you think could be the best OC for the Philadelphia
Well,
Eagles?
Stefanski would be probably the best. I think he'll get a head coaching job. Dable would be the guy. I don't know how this is going to play out. Let's just say the Eagles lost this game and they had a terrible offensive performance again. You can't bring this guy back, right?
No, you
I don't
can't.
think you can bring him back regardless. Because I think unless they've been playing possum this whole time and something is going to miraculously change.
I said, let's say they lost the game and the offense again did not perform. How do you bring him back?
Yeah, but I'm even saying they go all the way. And
Well, if they go to win the Super Bowl, you can't fire the guy.
I mean, if it's just defensive performance after defensive performance every single time,
I mean, the hard part of this is you don't want another new offensive coordinator with
Jalen Hurts, yeah.
Now, Daboll and him worked together at Alabama, but that's 8 years ago, 9 years ago?
That was a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Stefanski, is he going to come in here? First off, I think Stefanski's going to get a head coaching job. 1. 2, the problem with hiring Stefanski is, let's say you hired Kevin Stefanski as your offensive coordinator. He's going to come in here, you're going to score 35 points a game, and he's going to get a head coaching job and go right out the door.
By the way,
Because any real offensive coordinator, you're going to score by accident with this group of guys.
Right.
And Kevin Stefanski, I think, would come in here and probably kill it.
Stefanski, by the way, looks like he's going to be interviewing for the Giants and
He's
Titans.
got like 5 teams interviewing him. Stefanski's a good head coach. Come on. Shedeur Sanders is not an NFL quarterback. Come on.
I think Shedeur Sanders actually got better as the weeks went on. So Stefanski could be given credit for that, right?
He threw for 100 yards yesterday. I mean, 100 against the Bengals. The Bengals, for God's sakes.
They also ran the ball a lot yesterday.
Yeah, because the quarterback stinks.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of saying all these quarterbacks stink because then we're going to say the whole league needs to stink. Either.
Well, I'm talking about in context of where people were projecting him to go.
Well, then the Browns were right to draft him when they did, right?
Well, you turned my headsets off. Yeah. You got a you turned my headsets off.
I can hear you.
I don't hear myself.
How's that?
Better.
There we go.
He was a fifth-round quarterback. That's what he was. So, yeah, they got him. They took him where they should have. But for people to say he should have been the first pick in the draft.
Well, that was always crazy. But the problem is in today's world, we people want to overdraft quarterbacks no matter what.
100%. Dable would be the guy I would target if
Doesn't he get the same situation, though, where he lights it up here and then.
Maybe.
If not,
I think less than Stefanski. I think Stefanski will get hired right away. I don't think Dable gets hired in this cycle.
is there somebody not named Dable or Stefanski that intrigues you, or are those just the two main ones?
Well, Pete Carroll's a defensive guy. You're not going to hire him, obviously. Raheem Morris is a defensive guy. You're not going to hire him. Who else got fired today?
Well, Jonathan Gannon's a defensive guy. He ain't coming back.
Exactly. I was wondering if Steichen would have got let go, but that's not happening.
No, they basically what's her name? The owner of the Colts is basically saying that both Steichen and Ballard are both back.
Yeah, I don't think there was an offensive guy other than Stefanski that got fired today.
I'll give you a guy who wasn't fired, but I think would be interesting is Josh McCown.
What's he? He's some. I mean, I know he's somewhere.
He's working under Kevin O'Connell the last couple of years.
Yeah, we've heard his name a lot. I mean, he was getting head coaching buzz when he was still a backup quarterback.
Right. So I mean, now but the problem is, to your point,
Kafka might be available.
He would be available. Yeah, he ain't being kept over there in New York. He's an Andy Reid guy, though. Is Sirianni willing to cross over with an Andy Reid guy?
No, I wouldn't be surprised. Like Frank Reich, Doug Peterson. If
Frank
Peterson
Reich
would be
fits your
interested.
profile. You've said, Mike, right? The whole older coach is one of the head coaching job deal.
That's what I'm saying. Like, would Doug Peterson be like Robert Saleh and just say, hey, I'll come back and just be the coordinator here?
Although I will say, Saleh, did you see the news today? He just hired a new agent. So he looks like he's putting his name back in the head coaching pool.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he gave up 38 points the other day.
I don't know. Maybe people say that maybe he's trying to just make an argument that he's a better head coach.
I was always a Dable fan when he was with Buffalo. And when he got hired by the Giants, I thought that was a good hire. He got them to the playoff the 1 year, and then they were terrible. They had so many injury situations out there, but he did get them to the playoffs a couple of years ago.
I think Dable got a bad rap in New York. I feel like Joe Shane used him as the scapegoat, don't you?
I don't know that he used him as the scapegoat. The problem was, I thought that because Shane got a bad rap because of the whole Barkley thing. But they have their quarterback now. And I'm not the biggest dart guy in the world, but he's exceeded what I thought he would be. But you finally got a quarterback. You have a number one wide receiver. Now you got to start putting that offensive line together. You had a defense. Carter came on late in the year. You know, you got a defense that's okay. They've been drafting up front on defense, Thibodeau. So you would think that defense is starting to get better at some point. But, you know, now that you got your quarterback, they still only won 4 freaking games. They won yesterday?
They won yesterday, yeah.
Who's got the most enticing open spot right now if you're a head coach? Atlanta looks pretty good to me.
Atlanta's interesting. I don't love Penix, though.
I'm not a Penix fan, so.
I liked him in college. I what I've seen from him in the pros so far, he's been.
I think Tennessee is more appealing than Atlanta right now.
Ooh. The Giants, I guess. I mean, if you like Dart, you say, okay, I'm a coach. There's an opening and a team that has a quarterback already. Because one of the problems when you have a head coaching, you need to find that you're going to a team that generally doesn't have a quarterback.
I think the least appealing spot is actually Atlanta because of all the turnover they've had the last few years. I mean, Arthur Blank keeps firing people.
The Raiders are bad.
Raiders are bad,
Although
too.
they do have the first pick in the draft. Although I don't envy having the first pick in the draft. I don't the Mendoza, to me, is a great college quarterback, awesome kid. And I don't know that he's an NFL guy.
I feel like his ceiling is Kirk Cousins. I don't think he's any better than that. Like he could be a solid quarterback in the NFL with the right coach, throws for some yards and touchdowns, but he ain't gonna win you a championship.
Yeah, if that's the best option and you have the number one overall pick,
I'm trading it. That's what me and Alex were saying on Saturday. We were talking about how the Giants should just trade their pick and build more assets.
But of the teams that fire their quarterback, the Giants at least they don't have to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, it's true.
The Jets are pretty bad, by the way.
The Jets are a dumpster fire, but they kept their head coach.
Did they announce he's coming back?
They haven't announced he's not coming back.
Well, that doesn't mean he's not getting fired yet. I would say that of all the coaches that should be fired, he probably, and I'm not a big fire one and done. You hired a defensive back coach and didn't get one interception all year. That's unbelievable. All right, we'll wrap up the show coming up next. 609-403-0973. I think Sixers tonight, by the way, 8:30. It's a later game tonight. Did I say the game was in Philly? Wait, where is this game tonight?
It's in Philly.
Why is the game at 8:30?
We'll find out.
National broadcast, maybe?
Is that what it is? An 8:30 game in Philly? All right. More Sports Bash. Wrap it up next.
You're listening to The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, getting ready to get out of here on this Monday night. Good to be back. Holidays. This is the one thing I hate about the football season. You get to late in the year, and then the holidays get here. And you get out of the routines. Like once Thanksgiving hits and you got 3 games on Thanksgiving, then you start to get those Saturday games, then you get the 3 games on Christmas, and it's just like you just don't ever feel like, the last month of that football season just feels like it's not like the real football.
Yeah. Now I'm starting to see Masters commercials coming up already.
I saw that the other day. By the way, Peachy's off today. That's Alex Berardis filling in on site. Josh is back in the studio. Tomorrow, by the way, Sixers tonight. Now, that Sixers thing, we just did the research. 8:30 tip in Philadelphia. It's a Peacock exclusive game. No NBC Sports Philadelphia.
Poor.
That's a bad job by the NBA.
Now, do you think attendance is lower because it's an 8:30 game?
No.
Like I'm less enticed to go to a Sixers game.
Down here.
Down here, yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's tough for us to make that drive. I mean, that means the game's not getting over till like 11.
Yeah.
But if you live in the city, it's probably not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I guess not.
But bad job. That game, you got to, it's like when the game's on Amazon Prime in the NFL, they put the game on like a network station.
Well, like the NFL, if a game is on Prime or something, that's the NFL's been doing for years now. Why can't the NBA just use the NFL model?
Is there an echo in here?
I was going to say, isn't that?
Would you turn off his headset too?
I didn't know such thing.
Yes. What else? There was one other thing I had on my mind today. I don't know. It's good to be back. Like, that's another thing. I've been out of my routine for a while. Been all over the place.
Knocking some rust off.
Yeah, like I haven't really been back in the swing of things for a little while here, and I'm like, all right, am I going to be okay? It's like riding a bike here. So we'll do it again tomorrow, okay? Sixers tonight. Can't watch the game. You can listen to it on 97.3 ESPN. That's an 8:30 tip. Tomorrow, a lot of Eagles tomorrow. Maybe the Phillies might do something interesting. If that happens, of course, we'll be all over it. Where the Flyers play tomorrow night, right?
Cutter Gauthier return to Philly tomorrow night.
Yeah, this week it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Sixers, and then I think Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Flyers. I could be wrong about the Flyers there. All right. By the way, the game for the Eagles is that a Fox game? Is that a Brady and Burkhardt, I think, on Sunday?
I like them.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya.